Hello, dear listeners. If you're new here, we're Margin Mavens, and we are obsessed with writing in our books and sharing our thoughts with you guys. In this episode, we are talking about The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon, the latest addition to the Bone Season series. As usual, we are joined by Izzy from readthesefics, who has been graciously hosting a read along of the series in preparation for the newest book to come out in early 2025. We're doing things a little differently today because there has been no time to digest.
Nope.
Steph has just finished this book in the last 10 minutes of recording.
I have all my notes in the back of the book, all my conspiracy notes in the back.
I had to create a second highlight reel to contain all my thoughts because Instagram was like, stop talking about the mask falling.
Never.
My bad. Are we starting with the mask falling? Are we starting with the dawn chorus?
We should probably talk about the dawn chorus a little bit.
Yeah.
It was cute.
It was very
fluffy.
Very fluffy, very cute.
It gave what I assumed it was going to give.
Nice little balm for the soul.
Yeah, I almost wish we had one after the mask falling as well.
Still emotionally traumatizing, though.
And not enough answers. You know, I kind of walked into it going okay, give me the fluff, give me the cute, right? And then it did, but it still left a lot to be desired.
That's
right?
You're greedy when it comes to romance.
Because we don't get them falling back together until the mask falling. Right? And so it didn't give enough like it should have.
Again, because you're greedy when it comes to romance.
Kayla, I don't know what about you today has made it to where you have wanted to be mean.
Just wait till you go on our Instagram.
I agree with Kayla. You were like, Paige, enough of your trauma.
Yeah.
Kiss
Get
already.
to the smooching. Let's go.
Not even. I liked that they showed her go through stages of withdrawal and go through really leading us into how she was going to deal with water and how she was going to deal with tight spaces. I liked all of that. I think it just left something to be desired for me because it didn't give me enough answers. And I'm not even talking romance. I'm big fan of romance, but it just didn't give me enough answers, I guess, for how the rest of the story was going to play out, you know? It was too little for wanting to get into the next step of things. And so for those who are listening, have been following along and stuff, the mask falling is Paige and Arcturus have been told that they are going to France, and with the hopes of figuring out what's going on, we find out that there is a secret spy organization that's also been working against Scion. There's a lot of moving parts here, right? And so with the Dawn Chorus, you saw them going in and Paige having to deal with the aftermath of being waterboarded and tortured and all of those things. And now with the mask falling, the kind of urgent sides of trauma healing have now sort of passed, and they're kind of just waiting in a safe house for their next steps. So my notes for this book are different. So
book?
for those who
For which
are
one?
The Mask Falling.
Okay.
So for those who are any sort of academic nerd, they'll know that there is a specific format of notes known as Cornell notes. When it comes to textbooks, I hate Cornell notes. So they're basically, Cornell notes are made up of 2 columns, right? And you usually do some sort of title, some sort of heading on the left-hand side. And then you'll have your thoughts or notes about that heading on the right-hand side. The idea behind it is you're supposed to make it more concise instead of leaning too heavily on writing everything word for word. I have kind of gerrymandered this to where my notes now for reading books, not just The Mask Falling, but in general, is the right-hand side. I write down quotes. And then obviously as this specific story continued, because I was on more of a time crunch than I normally am, it started becoming just page numbers if I knew that I liked a quote on that page. And then the left-hand side were like thoughts and feelings about certain things going on. And then once again, also kind of just turned into page numbers as things went on. First, I guess I really want to say, like, I feel a lot of sympathy for you in the fact that you've been waiting so long for this next book.
3
Because
years, yeah.
I don't think. Well, first, I think it makes a lot of sense as to why a lot of the Bone Season fans hold such like resentment towards the Roots of Chaos series, because you guys were getting these behemoth of books while waiting for this next book to happen. And so you guys
Yeah.
were tortured a little bit, and I now recognize that.
I will say I had it really bad because I was spoiled in that I read all of the Bone Season roster in 1 week. And when I
Yeah.
finished Mass Falling, the person who introduced me to it, I was like, "Hey, when next book?" And she was like, "Okay, so that's complicated." Goodreads says 2023. And I was
Mm.
like, 2 years? And she was like, "Hey, like the last one," I think she said that one time they waited 4 years. And I was like, "Oh, well, as long as I'm not waiting 4 years."
Got real close. Got real close.
No, yeah, thank you, Bloomsbury. I don't have to wait exactly 4 years, but
Yeah.
pretty close. But with Samantha Shannon, and early reviews indicate this as well, it's well worth the wait with her. You don't have to worry that, like, "Oh, what if I waited so long and it's not good?" No, like, you can
Yeah.
trust Samantha. She's gonna.
Hashtag in Samantha Shannon we trust.
Yeah, I absolutely
I
trust her.
Are you
That's
mad at
fair.
her, Steph?
I'm glad that two of us do right now.
There it is. There it is.
Okay. First off, I really enjoyed kind of leaning into that conversation we were having with the Dawn chorus and trauma and everything. I really enjoy that when Paige is having her freak out moments. One of the things that Arcturus does is he's near enough to her that he knows that she can sense him. There's a part where I didn't start writing page numbers at this point because I was dumb. But there's a part where she says, like, a familiar aura called me back. When my vision had throbbed itself clear, Warden crouched beside me, not enough to touch me, just enough to sense him, to remember him. Right? And that I think is really powerful because he does this throughout most of it, where anytime she seems to be having a really like traumatic response to something, he always reminds her that he is there.
Yeah.
Right? Which is why something that we will come to talk about is really painful. I liked their moments within the safe house of kind of just like the domesticity of it all, of him cooking and him kind of calling her out on like, hey, like you didn't really like my cooking, you know, like
Yes.
all of these
Oh,
things was
yeah,
really nice.
you're going back to the Dawn chorus
Yeah.
now, yeah.
And it's nice because we see that get carried on into this one where
Yeah.
he's still cooking, but you can tell he's put a little bit more effort into stuff. He's like trying a little
He's
harder.
learning. He's
Yeah.
learning.
One of my favorite things that they point out about what they do in the safe houses is the fact that they'll watch movies together, but she'll inevitably fall
And
asleep.
she'll fall asleep
And then over the next
happened.
day, over breakfast, he'll tell her how it ended.
Yeah.
And that was such a sweet thing because it shows. I'm making one thing very clear, and this will make sense once we get to later on in our conversation and everything. I never once doubted Arcturus.
No, I don't think the reader does or should.
I never once doubted Arcturus. I wasn't surprised with the plot twist. And I will talk about that a little bit more once we got there.
You're jumping 400 pages ahead.
Yeah.
She did just finish reading it, so
Yeah.
that
It's a
makes
little hard. It's a little hard for me to
compartmentalize. I get
compartmentalize because I'm still reeling from the things we find out later on. Another scene that I really, really enjoyed is when, ironically, have forgotten her name. The one that the supervisor that keeps coming in.
Ghost?
Yeah. What I really liked is when she gives Paige all of the like spy gadgets. That was really fun.
That was fun.
As somebody who like was a like Totally Spies girly, you
Yes.
know, like
Totally
that was
Spies,
super
Spy
fun.
Kids,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Codename Kids Next
that
Door,
was
Him and
super,
Kim
super
Possible.
fun.
Like,
Kim
Mhm.
Possible. Yeah. Oh, it was a Kim Possible moment.
Yeah, that
yeah.
was super, super fun for me. I also enjoy the conversation that Warden and her have, right? Where he says, like, forgive me, little dreamer, for letting them take you. And she's like, I didn't give you a choice. Like, it's fine. And
Yeah.
he has that moment where when they're going into the catacombs and everything, of like, you said you weren't going to push yourself so hard. And then we walk into the situation with the Grand Dukes and everything. And she's trying to let him, like, I like their conversation because
Yeah.
she does immediately like bare teeth. Like she's immediately defensive. She's immediately kind of attacking him for it. She pulls um
She did
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many of the listeners will understand this, but she kind of pulls like a Meredith Grey a little bit in this scene because she says, like, you put me on this road, you cannot
Yeah.
tell me how to
Me
walk
how to
it.
walk.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to Meredith Grey's like really iconic scene of like, you know, you're the one who broke up with me, you're the one who broke me, you don't get to judge like how I put my pieces back together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that, not from a Grey's Anatomy viewpoint, but just from
Yeah.
like a, she's baring her teeth, she's getting really defensive. I don't necessarily, I see both sides. Like it was really hard for me because I didn't know who I was siding with more. Like
Yeah.
I was leaning towards Arcturus because there does come a point throughout most of this book where I'm like, Paige, I need you to just chill for a second. Like you
Yeah.
go headlong into everything
Yeah.
and it
Isn't that
becomes,
why he picked her?
Yeah.
but there
I
comes a
think
point.
I think that's the beauty of it all though, is that so rarely in life is somebody all right and somebody all wrong.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing about this book, The Mask Falling, as I've said before, each book corresponds with one of Paige's tarot card
Mm-hmm.
readings, and this one is the Lovers. And what we learn about Paige and Arcturus uh, in this book, that's The Lovers, is that despite their best intentions, caring for each other is going to complicate the movement because the reasons he chose Paige are also the reasons that he loves her.
Yep.
They also put her in tremendous danger.
Yep.
And I mean, if we look at even current events, when things get like ruthless and brutal, what's the first thing we do? We cling to the people who are closest to us and we draw a line that maybe we don't want to cross, but we might end up crossing for that person. Like, it's all I think about the complexities of having a relationship while being a part of this bigger cause.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved how unsteady on my feet I felt in this relationship because they're trying to strike a balance the whole book.
Mhm.
It's really hard
Yeah.
for both of them.
I I agree. I think that Arcturus does a really good job of understanding who she is and he never tries to change how she is, but he
Yeah.
always does come from a place of like, I need you to understand how this feels for me.
Right.
You know, and she makes a point of trying to understand that. Like she's like, you know, I'm not going to apologize for the decisions I make. But I am sorry that you felt that way. Like that was probably really stressful and hard for you again. And so we have this whole moment and we also have the point where he becomes a big like mother hen again,
What?
right? And she's like, yeah, and she's like, oh, like, you know, I'm good. And he's like, okay, but I'm still going to do these things for you.
Yep.
And I really loved kind of how seamless they were really falling together in.
Yeah.
Um
I really liked how the Dawn chorus sort of amplifies that, like
mhm,
how they have their moments of like butting heads, but they fall into like this easy, well, not easy, but like simple routine and like
yeah, even
just
when
the
he's
way
like
that
mad
they
at
act.
her,
Yeah,
he like
even
still
when they're
pulls out
mad
the
at each
heating
other.
pad like
Yeah.
Oh, the fucking heating pad waiting
Yep.
in the
mhm,
bed. he is such husband material in this whole book where like
Yep.
when I'm in an argument with my husband, I won't deserve it and he will absolutely like have a steaming mug of sleepy time tea waiting for me even though we just got done arguing. And
Yeah.
it just, I really adore the way that Samantha Shannon writes romance.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very earned and intimate and complicated.
Yep.
Even in the Roots of Chaos, like the couples in both Priory and Day of Fallen Night are both
Mm-hmm.
like very similar in the I'll take care of you even when I'm mad at you
Yeah.
sort of dynamic.
Yeah. Then there comes a point where he talks about how there is like one last truth that he is hiding from her. Right. And I genuinely, because once again, romantic at heart, I was like, oh, is it that he still wants to be with her? Is that the truth? Right. And then we find out that that's not the truth he's talking about. Right. And I, so my downhill spiral that was this book is really interesting if you look at the actual notes, right? Which I might start just taking pictures of the notes. I know Kayla has mentioned this a couple times and like posting them on the Instagram or something because I think that'd be interesting because you kind of see my like spiral.
Descent into madness.
Yeah. Um
I have a very special note that I wrote in here that I just found from chapter 6 where Paige isn't feeling well because
mhm.
she's menstruating, and the note reads as follows. Izzy, I will need a fanfic just of Arcturus dealing with Paige on her period.
Yeah.
That's it.
That detail um is amazing. And I love how the page being like, I'm grand.
Yeah, like I'm
Yeah.
fine, and then
I'm
proceeds to
fine.
describe what everybody with a uterus deals with on varying degrees of severity,
Mhm.
and he just like
He's
stops
like,
what
and
he's
you still want to
doing.
do this?
I
And
have a
you're like, what?
I have a different fan fiction note on chapter 6, and it's that I really need Paige to show Arcturus what a drinking game is because
Yeah.
Ooh,
she brought it up
yes,
and he was like, what is a drinking game? How does one drink
drink.
game? I
Yes.
Yeah.
this man and his wine, he's like, you mean I could be gamifying it?
Mhm. I could
Like,
turn it into a
wow,
contest like
this could be a
um
contest?
and so we find out that Paige has been told that she needs to figure out why Menard is,
Not signing the Great Territorial Act.
yeah, that he really took a long time to sign this great
He
territory.
dragged his feet.
If he's meant to be like best buddies with Frank
Frank
Weaver and
Weaver.
Scion and all of these things. And so she gets told like, hey, you're going to take over his wife, right? And you're going to figure out what's going
All
on.
out of all the people, out of all like the balls on the domino program, because out of all of the people they chose his wife.
Real quick on the Domino program. We'll get more into this later. They really need to do more research on the people Paige has met
Yes.
because they are not doing their due diligence with
No.
conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And so she gets told like this is what you're doing. One of the biggest things that I wrote down about this book is I really wish I knew French.
Yeah, the French was hard for me,
Because
okay?
there's so many conversations that they have, right? That I
Yeah,
guess I'm almost used to. Like there were points where Samantha would say like this person's speaking in French, but it would be in English, and I
yeah,
appreciated that, right? And then there were other
yeah.
points where she didn't do this, and that like inconsistency. When I'm not on a time crunch, I might go back and get a translate for it, but
I
not
think she
knowing
has it.
French.
I think she has them on her website now too. Like she
Okay.
very recently added that.
Yeah, because I think it like I ended up just skimming over all of the French because I was like, I don't have time to sit down and like translate this. So that's really like my biggest and only gripe
Mm-hmm.
currently. Um,
We'll
Left
get
from currently.
Alright, we'll get into the big gripes come we talk about part 3, I'm sure.
and so Paige ends up doing just that. She goes and she dream walks into Luce's body,
And
right?
she does
And
an amazing job considering her body is battered and barely healing from
mhm,
not only the beatings that she took, but also from going through withdrawal that like astonishing how much stronger she is as a dreamwalker.
yeah,
Thank God for Arcturus suggesting that they work on him so that
mhm,
honestly, AU where Arcturus is a personal trainer.
yeah,
Right?
literally. Um, and so once we get in there, she does a lot of really interesting work behind the scenes before she takes over this body. Is she makes sure
Mhm.
that she studies the dossier, she makes sure that she knows everything about the mannerisms and the way that Luce would react to things and what she would call people, and she does a lot of work behind it. And what is really funny, not to jump forward because we'll stay exactly where we are, but the whole thing that really makes Menard realize something is off is the exact thing that Paige didn't want, right? Like it gets
Right.
to the point where they're eating dinner together and she's like, I don't really like that meat, so I'm not going to eat it. Right.
Yeah.
But instead of, because she was so afraid of how Luce would handle such a thing, right? Like if she could have just been like, I don't like that, actually, take it
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Things probably would have been a lot more different. But we run back into David, who we find out is not David. And his name is actually, yes, what's up?
So, while I was Charlie Daying it last night after finishing this book, I
Mm-hmm.
discovered that we knew him as David Fitton, Fitton,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? Fitton. In Middle English, Fitton means lie or falsehood.
Nice. Her
I don't
brain.
know if that was the intent, Samantha Shannon. Please let us know. But
I didn't know that.
that was, yeah, when I
I didn't
learned
have
that,
time to Charlie Day it. All right.
I've been Charlie
I had
Daying
Whose
it.
I had
fault
two
is that?
weasels. I had
Beth?
two weasels just staring at me.
Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny. Have you
Oh
seen
yeah,
like that?
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
she
oh, I
asked
know what
whose
you're talking
fault
about.
is that?
Oh,
No,
whose
I
fault is
said
it? Yeah.
Steph was saying
Yeah.
I was on a time crunch, and I'm saying whose fault is that?
Listen, to be fair, we had like 4 books to read this week, and it's been a tough week. All
Why
right.
did you have 4 books? Okay.
Because we're mentally unwell.
Yeah,
Izzy.
it's
Okay.
fine. It's fine. It's the last time for like a really long time we have this many books. Anyways, and I didn't want to read The Mask Falling early on and then be in the situation that Kayla's in. You know? Like I'd rather have my feelings and talk it out right now, but I couldn't like sit down and Sherlock it.
But you were saying David's real name
Oh,
is
so we find out his real name is Cade, right? And we find out in the
Paige
weird,
Fitzcore?
Fitzroy.
yeah, we find out in the funniest way possible to me because he comes up to Luce as Paige
Hmm.
is in her body and just lays one on her. And Paige is like, why are
Right.
you doing that?
And punches him as
She
loose.
punches him.
Yeah, and that's incredibly funny to me. And
I
so we
love that
find
was
out
her
that he
first reaction.
has,
Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
yeah,
It makes sense because Luce is repulsed by Enormo.
Yeah.
And I like at first I was like, Paige in character. Oh wait, I guess she is in character.
Yeah.
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 And so we find out that he has been working for Maynard this entire time, which is the whole reason he went to Oxford, because he was trying to figure out more about the refs and yada yada yada, right? This guy sucks. It's fine. Then
Okay.
we find out, because we get some foreshadowing. We find out early on, what's up? Why are we looking at me like that?
Because we don't know that he sucks in part 1. He seems like
I already didn't like him. What do you mean? I don't like
okay.
ambiguity. He's been ambiguous this entire time we have known him.
In the same way that I say this about Jackson, I say this about Cade. He is one of my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I have never liked this man because we never
Yeah.
knew where he stood, right?
Yeah,
Like,
whenever he shows up, I'm so excited.
It's going to be interesting.
And so we find out that, and this was kind of foreshadowed earlier on in this book, but that they had sent a ref to check in on Menard and be like, hey, why are you not signing this paper? And that ref had just disappeared. And it turns out that they are holding him hostage and doing little Dr. Frankenstein experiments on him to figure out what makes a ref tick, right?
Mhm.
Because this has never been something that was available.
Corniforous. Yeah.
Yeah. And man, what an interesting guy that is. Because he just, first off, Arcturus being a bi legend, love him for that. Second, the fact that this guy really banks on, oh, Arcturus wouldn't want me dead.
Yeah.
And Paige is
Oh,
like,
desperate much? Desperate
like,
ex behavior, by the
I
way.
was like, I feel like if he did what you did, he would have been mentioned at least once, you know, like.
Precisely.
So Corniforous is the person who has seen their ex looking at their IG stories one time, and they're like, "Oh, still obsessed with me.
Yeah.
Still obsessed."
And I like that because of this, right? We find out from Cade, right, that the Emin are refs, that they are refs that have gone to the wild side, right? Which is the best kept secret because, you know, the refs are like, you need us to fight these guys off.
Yeah,
And you also can't know.
may I speak to that because it is my
Always.
absolute
Yes.
favorite twist. Hold on. I documented my thoughts because this meant so much like hold on. Here we go. Okay. Okay. So maybe it's my reading, but I think that the Rephaim being the very thing they said they came to save humanity from is a brilliant metaphor for authoritarianism. Often an autocrat invents fears and issues to seize hold of a people. Meanwhile, they set up systems to perpetuate the problem so they are always needed, and their hold on people is hard to loosen. Why is this necessary? Because absolute authority is not natural. It is a state that has to be crafted into necessity, like the illusion of the refs being the only thing between the buzzers and the mortals when they are the buzzers. So I think it's just brilliant on Samantha Shannon's.
I mean, listen, I may not like her right now, but she's
One second, my
smart.
cat is.
Oh no.
I'm good.
Do you want out? Here. You can
Can you
leave.
put a note, please?
This isn't for you. Sorry, my cat.
No,
But
okay.
it's just I've said this a million times since we've read this series. Of all the dystopias that I've read, Samantha Shannon seems to be one of the few who really understand how an autocracy does rise to power in a
Mhm.
very realistic way. Um, you know, we kind of in other dystopias glance over book like banning books, censorship. We say it's happening, we don't see it. But Samantha Shannon talks about the uniform, like the dress code, the blue lights, the
Mm-hmm.
restricted music, and and when we get to France, we see that they're starting to apply these restrict. They have to speak English. Some of their places are being like censored, and when you want to start an autocracy, you have to get rid of the things that really document fact, which is
Right.
art, religion,
Mm-hmm.
history, music, literature.
Yeah.
And I love that she goes into depth about that. And then she wraps it up with this nice little bow with the Rephaim turning into the Amim, the thing
Mm-hmm.
they claim to be the saviors from.
Yeah. It's really interesting, and I also think very close to home, I think, with a lot of the political environment right now, but especially still living in good old Florida, right?
Yeah.
We
Mhm.
have an entirely like new list of books by like Florida school county of books that are being banned. Thankfully, and my only win right now is that my county has not added any in this most recent wave. But I think that is why no matter how grudgingly upset I am right now, I can always appreciate just like the craftsmanship that Samantha Shannon really employs, and not just creating a world, but making it to where everything has a reason for it that can be connected to things in real life. Because you can go like, yeah, it's easy. Not easy. Easy is not the word I would use, but it's simpler almost to create a world, a fictional world where everything is connected and everything makes sense. Authors of many crafts do this every single day. But to make it to where you can do that and also have it be something that is crafted to connect with your own world and your own living situation is something that's entirely different.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the fact that Samantha can do that without it feeling as though it takes away any of the like escapism that a lot of people want in reading. Like you can go like, wow, this makes a lot of sense given, the political policies that are happening or the current events happening in the world, right? But it still feels like an escape. There's just enough disconnect there for it to still be nice for a reader while not ignoring the problem entirely. Um and so talking about her time in that estate, right? One thing that I think is so interesting to me is that Maynard is the one that's in power, right? He's the one that's able to call those shots and stuff, but his wife is almost scarier to me and has been since had her interaction with Paige when Paige was about to be executed. Yeah, when we see her and she's like, I'm so happy my children, stuff like that. I'm like, that's crazy, especially knowing what we know now of there being a very, very good chance that her own child that is being carried with her is going to be clairvoyant, And she's a lot scarier to me because she
She's a loose
knows, like she
cannon.
says it herself, like even if my husband were to find out about my affair, right? He's not going to blame me if I fell prey to, all of these things. And I feel like she is a lot more dangerous than I think even like Paige gives her credit for.
I agree.
And I'm curious to see what really ends up, playing out with that.
It's kind of incredible. She introduces so many characters, and there's not a single one that isn't like multifaceted, like that I don't wonder about. Not a single person who ever walks on page bores me.
Yeah.
And that's insane.
And so we get that Paige at this point is now trying to figure out a way that she's going to get out, right? Because she had allowed them to capture her, but now she's like, all right, I'm getting what I needed to get. I would like to leave now because they're going to kill me.
Yeah.
And she does some really cool stuff. We learn more about the Rag and Bone Man, who is now known as the man in
the Iron Mask.
Iron Mask. And we learn that he is still continuing that gray market here, and he is still, doing all of these things to really sell out the Voyans and wreak havoc in not great ways, right? And I love
not
that
only
throughout.
that, but the France's mime queens and mime kings like the gray market and think that they can do it right. And suspiciously, one of the three ruling under lords is missing.
And no one's like, hey,
Paige is immediately like, that smells like shit.
She pegs it immediately.
So yeah, that we kind of glanced over that, so I wanted to go back and point that out.
Yeah, of course. And so we end up seeing that she steals the ledger. She has these ways or this plan in her head kind of getting out, right? And she can't help herself once again. So she ends up going back to, can never pronounce his name, the ref. The experiment one. Yeah, Corniforus. So she ends up going back to him, right? Being like, hey, let's make a deal. And that's when
we can call him corny.
Yeah. Very corny. And so
truly
she ends up trying to strike a deal with him, right? And he's trying to bank on like, I'm one of the Ranthan. And we're like, I just feel like Paige would know. Like
they would have mentioned him.
Like, hey, we have another higher up there, and it wasn't just a selfie,
Then again, I was gonna say they kept Al Selfie from her for a minute.
Yeah, so but I feel like past that, especially because it was so pushed into them, like because of Al Selfie's gone, we don't have anyone else up there, kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
He was really just banking on the fact that she wouldn't want to piss off Arcturus when like half of her existence is pissing off Arcturus.
Yeah,
Um,
he placed his bet on the wrong horse.
yeah, and so she goes back to find him, and he basically says, like, "Hey, if you don't come back for me, I'm gonna hunt you down," right?
Mhm.
And I'm like, man, she's got so many other issues than like you not liking her right now.
Yeah,
Like,
buddy.
I was like, you're low on my list of concerns.
Join the club of people
Yeah, take
hunting
a
Paige to help
number.
me.
Get
Like,
in line.
and so
I love that Paige heard that and she was like, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then I like that she in this book she's using the golden cord a lot more often. Like even if it's not fully working, she's like sending thoughts down it. Like she's trying to tell Arcturus, "Hey, I'm getting out on this day. Like be ready to run," stuff like that. And he listens, obviously.
Mhm.
And there's a point where multiple points really, but in the scene where she's finally getting out, right? And she sees him and is reminded that he's actually a warrior because of the way that he's able to take out these armed
Yeah.
people very easily.
Yeah.
And there's a really sweet scene and she says like there's only two people in the world that I would trust to catch me if I decided to fling myself out of a window,
Mhm.
and it was Nick and Arcturus, and
Mhm.
obviously he does catch her and they, make it out and everything like that. One thing that I really enjoy from them obviously being reunited is when they finally have that conversation about the buzzers and the truth and everything. And she's like, I'm very angry with you,
Yeah.
right? I was never angry at Arcturus. You know
I
who I
wasn't
was
either.
angry at? Hashtag
Ter-
frick terrible.
I
You
was gonna say
know, like,
terrible.
listen, there are annoying exes and then there are terrible, right? Like, we find out that not only we knew they were together, but we find out a lot more about their relationship in this book, right? And we find out that when Nashira wanted Warden, uh Terrible's like, okay, I'll fight you for him, which is funny to me, and gets upset with him when he agrees to save her life. And
Yeah.
she's like, no, we should have both died. And I'm like, I don't know what type of Romeo and Julietness you
Yeah.
guys got going on in the netherworld, but no.
I think so. I have so many thoughts on that, learning that history
Mm-hmm.
and why. I think Arcturus has been human much
Mm-hmm.
longer than he's been in on Earth and
Mm-hmm.
appreciating humans
Mhm.
because Paige and Arcturus seem to connect and persevere through this shared empathy where they go, "Oh, if I were in your shoes,
It
I
would have
think I would
sucked.
have done the
Like,
same."
yeah.
Yeah.
Tarabelle says, no, my way
No.
or the highway. I can't see any other way. There is no such thing as
Yeah.
subjectivity, only objectivity."
And we find out that shortly after meeting Paige, Arcturus and the rest of the Ranthan are made to make an oath that they're
Yep.
never going to tell Paige or anybody that they can turn into buzzers.
Yep.
Right. And he's like, I went to her and asked her to let me out of it when I started to care for you. And she told me no. And it's such X behavior.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because it would have been smarter from a strategic standpoint if the people that you want to have be your allies knew the full truth, because then they
Yeah.
wouldn't be in a position like this where
To be
somebody who is
tempted.
an enemy, right, or could be an enemy is going to
Mhm.
tell them the truth for you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of, for not being a human, Terrible really lets a lot of her emotions really fill her decision making skills. And I need
Yeah.
her to have a talk.
With her, I can't tell if she like made that call with Arcturus because one, she just does not want to see Paige and Arcturus get closer because there's been hints that she's a
Hmm.
little jelly.
Yeah.
And
There's a
another
lot of
part,
hints. And I think,
well, then the other idea that I had was that
hmm,
maybe they just they lack this understanding that we have and that Arcturus has of humans and loyalty. And sometimes when loyalty feels like it's broken, that can outweigh self-preservation. Terabelle, I think, relies too heavily on the Voyants needing the Ranthan
yeah, like an
and not
obedience
enough,
thing.
yeah, and not on earning
Yeah.
their trust.
Because the problem will always be with the Ranthan, other than Arcturus, is that none of them are ever, as of this point,
Yeah.
in this series, none of them have ever been willing to view the humans as anything other than subservient.
Yeah.
Whereas Arcturus has been able to look past that, which is why he's able to look past and see the grander like spectrum of emotions of, oh, in order for them to want to work with me, they need to feel as though they can trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Please hold. Where are my meds?
Are they in your bag?
No. Can you make a note on Fred, please? Oh, I didn't refill. Good thing I didn't take them yesterday.
Oh my god. Take your meds.
Yeah.
Don't cut this part. Take your meds. Every
yeah,
day.
Everybody.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think a lot of it really falls on Arcturus is able to realize if they feel as though we are not trusting them fully, they are not
Yeah.
going to be willing to put their lives on the line.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And unless Terrible ever sees this, she's going to keep losing and she's going to always just seem like a bitter ex who has way too much power.
Okay, so I've been wondering if maybe similar to what we saw go down, because I don't think, I'm wondering if Nashira is to Haymarket Hector as Terabel is to Jackson, as Paige is to Arcturus. So is there a fallout with Terabel coming? Like, I know that
Probably.
she's like, I'm wondering if, again, because Samantha Shannon does like to flip the dynamics a lot. I'm wondering if Arcturus is going to have to strike up his own mime order of Ranthan who see the humans as equals.
Yeah.
And leave Terabel behind.
I
At some point,
hate her. I hate her.
Welcome to the club,
I
baby.
hate her.
Yeah.
And so they finally make it back to the safe house, right? And the doctor comes in to look at Paige, right? Cordelia is so funny to me. Because
Cordier or Cordier?
Courtier.
yeah, sure. And she's so funny to me because, and I don't know if it's because I have
Because she's
more
sketchy from the
common
beginning.
sense. Yeah, like I don't mess with ambiguity in books or in life, right? Be straight up. Own it, right? And so what's really funny is the fact that as the physician, right, she's incredible at her job, not doubting her skills in the slightest, right?
Okay.
But here's my thing, right? You walk into a room and you know that this one person has this one person with them that is their like ride or die, right? I don't think I'm walking into that room and flirting with the ride or die.
Oh, I completely
Incorrect.
I just
Incorrect. I will literally flirt with anybody who is attractive. I don't care if your significant other is next to you.
that makes it a problem, Kayla. This isn't something to be loud about.
Listen, if I'm gonna be loud and wrong, then I'm gonna be loud and wrong. But like,
Leo in true fashion.
if I'm in a room with attractive people and
don't
I want to
lump me in
flirt,
with this.
I'm a flirt.
That's crazy.
To be fair, I would have
Listeners.
flirted with Paige first.
Listeners, don't follow her.
Yeah.
Her behavior will get you smacked up. And
I mean,
I'm just saying.
I can't. I'm letting it go.
of all the people to empathize with.
Yeah, right? Crazy work.
Oh no. See, that's not why I think she's sketchy, right? Okay, she's sketchy because she's allowing. So she comes on the scene. One, she's late. All right,
You're
that's
yelling.
the thing
I need you to bring it down.
I can't tolerate is that she's late, right?
Yeah, that pissed me off.
And two, she can tell that Paige is unwell, and she's going to allow Dukos to force Paige to dreamwalk and possess what's his face's wife.
Yeah.
Going back to the common sense thing. Okay.
With a Hippocratic oath? You're gonna tell me?
When have the oaths mattered in this book?
I'm
I don't
just
know if they
saying.
even have that anymore.
I just threw that out there, but like,
Wait. If we're talking Hippocratic oath for a second, let me get your
Nick.
Leo ass. Whole thing being do no harm to others, right? That's their whole shtick. You're gonna tell me that with that oath in mind, in your make-believe world and rationale, she should have been okay with flirting with the obviously taken man? That would have done harm.
I love how you say
Physical
obviously
bodily?
taken. Like they didn't spend the majority of this book going back and forth about whether or not they were or
But from
weren't.
an outside point of view, you cannot tell me. We're going back to this. There is no way I walk into a situation where these two people are attached at the hip,
This is why we
right?
get unhinged.
This one person is able to be in the room while the patient is being undressed, showing some sense of familiarity, right? And you're gonna flirt with them.
As a great philosopher once said, if you liked it, you should have put a ring on it. That's all I'm
We're
saying.
not gonna call Beyonce a great philosopher.
It's her internet. We call her whatever we want.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, by the way, thank you so much, Beyonce, for the internet for this video.
Yes.
Thank you for
and
allowing us to read and give us the pages of these books. But
to both of your points, I personally would not go in there with all the audacity that Cordier has. In Steph's defense, Kayla, in yours, I would say they're not technically together. So,
but it's one of those like very obvious unspoken things between them. Okay, the Leos
Yeah.
in this room are just really frustrating me today.
Yo.
I said I would do
Yo.
it. I'm just defending Kayla's
Listen,
decision.
I'll
Kayla
take
don't
I'll
need
take
help.
the heat, but there's no reason why Izzy's got to catch strays right now. Okay.
She just helped you. What are
She
you
helped
she
you too.
praise?
She helped you too. She defended
I
both of
helped
us.
you too. I defended you as well. Listen, but anyway, Cordier
But
comes
going
in.
to this moment where she
Yeah.
walks in and she flirts with Warden, right? And what
Yeah.
I found really interesting was she's like, "Hey, this is my first name. Like, what's yours?" And he says Warden.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
Because
shut
it's
her down.
exactly what he should have done, no matter
His
the
eyes
circumstances.
were only on Paige,
The
even
whole
though
time.
she was right there. Cordier was right there.
Yeah,
flirting
Paige
with
even
him.
remarks on it and was like, Paige is like, I'm kicking and giggling. He only had eyes for me.
Yeah. I just
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's all I'm gonna say.
no, you Leo ass. You shouldn't be making some of them. Oh my goodness. She's been
I
okay.
can't help you.
I don't know what's in the waters, but for this whole week, she's been striving off of chaos.
Mhm.
And I needed to shut down. Like Mercury retrograde's coming in. I needed to put her on her ass.
It's not my
Like,
fault the full moon was in what, Virgo? It's not my fault.
Gatorade.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I needed to put her on her ass and have her calm down a little bit because she's been like this for like a week.
I do not follow any of this stuff, so I cannot help here.
Okay. Moving forward, I
Yes,
really
moving forward.
enjoyed the scene where once they're having the conversation about secrets and promises and all of that, Warden
Mhm.
gives her an oath to never hurt her and never put her in harm's way and yada,
Yeah.
yada, yada, right?
Yes.
Really
Yeah.
love that scene. Love the fact that he also did it in her native language.
Love the fact they
Love-
came back and smacked us in the face 2 parts later.
Didn't smack me. I didn't believe nothing.
Oh,
Listen.
we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there.
And so Paige gets told that she needs to assassinate Jackson.
Oh,
right?
wait. Can we go back real quick?
Yes.
We have to talk about Paige because in the Dawn chorus, Paige sort of hurls at Arcturus.
Yeah.
Why didn't you come for me? Nobody
Yeah.
came for me when I was in the Archon.
Mhm.
What was that?
Mhm.
And she admits later, I shouldn't have said that to you. That was not fair. And Arcturus goes, no, I felt tremendous guilt for not coming. I did try to come and people told me I couldn't, but I should have done it anyway.
Yeah.
And then after he rescues her from the Hotel Garouche,
Mhm.
they're laying together in bed, and she said, I knew you would come this time. I knew. And he says, I could not reach you in the Archon. I will never leave you in a dark room again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why later on hurts us, right? But we're getting there. And so So she gets told that she needs to assassinate Jackson, right?
Yeah.
And Jackson, once again, is a thorn in everybody's side, right? No matter where you look, no matter what thread it is, the thread always leads back to Jackson.
Yes.
So they have this plan. They have to get into Versailles in order to assassinate Jackson. And she is told explicit instructions. Assassinate Jackson with a gun, not your powers, do nothing else.
Take a
Right?
picture.
You
That's it.
know 100% that Paige is not going to just do that if she can help it, right? Like, she is not going to walk out of this prison leaving it standing.
I think
No,
one thing
because oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think one thing we've established, especially in this book, is that Paige puts the revolution above most things, which is why
Oh,
there's
yeah.
so much friction sometimes between her and Arcturus, because she wants to put the revolution ahead of her own safety and own well-being.
Mhm.
Which,
Yes.
again, is another strike against the Domino program, because they truly have not done any sort of research.
It seems like it doesn't seem like they haven't done any sort of research. It seems like they're an insurgency that's really desperate.
Yeah.
And they can't be choosy. But we have to talk about the incentive to destroy, to do more in Shield other than assassinate Jackson, which is that Paige found a ledger of traded voyants to Shield to when she was infiltrating as Luce, and it includes
Nadine.
Zeke, Nadine, and worst
Michael.
of all, Michael.
And we still don't. Hashtag where is Michael?
Also, I want to say this. A note that I made was that, hold on, where is my note on the people who were traded in? Yeah, and it's sad about Nadine or whatever is what I wrote.
Yeah, literally. Like, I was like, I mean, man, how you gonna be surprised he betrayed you?
Play
Exactly.
stupid games with a megalomaniac, and
Yeah.
you end up with a penal colony vacay.
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
happens to
sorry.
the best of us sometimes, you know?
And Nadine.
The amount of times I wrote that mother effer in this book in relation to Jackson is at least 3, if not more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I really enjoyed this whole shebang into Versailles, right? I enjoyed how
Sorry,
yes.
pause.
No, you're fine.
When Paige is like, I'm gonna go against the orders, that could
Mhm.
mean that they will dose us with white aster, because if you get kicked out of the Domino program, you get dosed with white aster, which we learned in book 1 causes memory loss.
Mhm.
And we'll lose all of our funding. Do you still think it's worth it? And he says, yes, there will always be consequences, but for the sake of all unnaturals, Rephaite and human, we cannot let another prison stand. Any civilization that must subjugate a part of itself to survive is not worth saving. Paige says, I agree. You're with me then. And he says, if you will have me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this is one of the first times in the whole series that Paige and Arcturus have agreed to take a risk together
Yep.
and are going to do it. And what is the factor that makes this possible? The Ranthan are not around. They're
Right.
not
Mhm.
around to make Arcturus worried. It's just the two of them.
It's just the two of us. When it comes down to it, when it's just
Just
the two of them,
two of
he
us.
makes his choice plain and clear.
Yep.
And that's the beauty of this book, is we see what their relationship can
Could
do
really be. Yeah.
without the Ranthan threatening like blood treachery and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I really love their entire adventure in Versailles, right? Which is what I'm calling it for lack of better words. But we also, it made me really excited because at one point Paige sees what it seemingly seems like a prophecy. And that was really fun because I was like, we love prophecies in this household. We love when things seem like they're already preordained a little bit, because she's like, I'm going to remember that. And then we continue on. With the whole trip into Versailles, the cacophony of music was crazy to me. The fact that Jackson knew she was coming, so he immediately is playing a song he knows she would recognize, changes it to another one, makes it louder, makes it go faster, like all of these different things.
Haunting her.
Mans is so petty, and I appreciate
The
that.
thieving magpie,
Yeah.
that diva.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I love it.
I appreciated the fact that we also got to see Arcturus really in his moment, when he gets
As
the
a
opaline
warrior.
sword and like looks at the five of them, and Paige is like, there's no way, like this is like not gonna go great for him. Knowing who he is, she still has that moment, right? And he does not hesitate. And then she has that moment of clarity where she says, like, he was trained to defend, a bloodline. Like, he is trained to do this. And I really appreciated everything about that scene. And then obviously once we see him again later and he's covered in like their blood.
When the fight with Thubin,
Yeah.
which is the first time we have heard, other than to call out Paige's name, we have never heard Arcturus raise his voice.
Yep.
Right.
But when Thubin has confronted Paige, he barks his name.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like a war cry. And I loved him for it. And it's such a good scene because despite the fact that he is obviously there to protect Paige, he's also just there because he's sick and tired of Thubin. He's sick and tired of like these refs. And he's like, I'm here for her. I'm gonna make sure she gets out, but oh my God, am I going to kill you?
He's also been having conversations with Ivy that we didn't get to hear. We just know that they've been talking late at night.
Yeah.
And I feel like a part of Arcturus, this part that sees like wounded, broken things and wants to help, feels a sort of like almost big brothery
Yeah, like she would not come here because she didn't want to face you, so I'm going to
I'm gonna do it for her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so he ends up taking one of his eyes, which is chef's kiss. Love that. And so a lot starts happening, right? Paige and Jackson have a conversation. And while I understand it from not only like a Paige point of view, but also the like audience point of view and like an English teacher point of view, there's a lot of point of views that I understand, right? Really wish this girl would have just killed him.
No,
I get
no,
it.
like
that was never going to happen. Are you kidding?
Exactly agree.
I know. I know that
in.
it wasn't going to happen. Doesn't mean I can't wish that it was going to happen.
Oh yeah, I was sitting there going, pull the trigger, but wait.
Yeah,
his little monologue on page 314, I highlighted. Make no mistake, Paige, that if anyone is your father, I am. A father protects
all right,
his
Darth
progeny.
Vader.
A father sees potential and nurtures it. A father seeks justice for the sorrow of his child. That the pointless and neurotic that sired you did none of those things. Who did? All you have suffered, all you have survived, all of it has armored you. Who can break you now, Black Moth? Now there is nothing left to break.
Do you know what I wrote underneath that? This is
Slay?
doing nothing for Paige's daddy issues.
It's doing nothing for my daddy issues either.
The page before that, though, the page before that.
When she says, Jackson, like, I am a monster? Oh.
No, Jackson actually says, because we've talked about before how Paige and Jackson are basically the same person with different ends to their journey. And so they display the fundamental difference between the two of them in 2 lines of dialogue, which is, did the weight of the crown ring your skull of everything I taught you? Morals, Paige, are for the lucky ones. Conscience is for those who have the luxury of choice. And what are you, if not a lucky one, here in your shining palace? And that's the thing. Jackson says, I have no room for compassion or morals when I was not born with a silver spoon up my ass. And Paige goes, no, it is because of that we have to have morals. Because so I adore that trade.
I think the entire scene with Jackson was really interesting because Arcturus is very much like Paige did this all on her own. She became who she is because it's who she is, right? And Paige is actually like, no, he is wrong. I am, in fact, the monster that he created, right? But she's learning how to like sharpen her own claws and she's learning what to bring her claws out for. And I really appreciated the conversation between the three of them, really, where Jackson, because it's the first time that Jackson and Arcturus see each other ever. And knowing that Jackson was the one that betrayed him, all those years ago. and having Jackson kind of like putting salt in the wound and being like, don't you hate me? Don't you want to kill me? Like, do this, but she'll never forgive you. And Jackson is just really good at being like, I'm already the most annoying person in this story right now, but I'm going to make it be to where you are begrudgingly like admiring the fact that I'm not showing that fear. I'm, doing all of these really cool things.
Let's not forget the most devilishly, I won't say the word, but you know the word. The most devilishly moment from Arcturus where he sees Jackson. He goes, I didn't know your name the first time we met.
Yeah.
He knows that that's going to hit him in his.
Yeah, because it's like an ego and a pride thing. It's like, I just knew you as the human traitor. Like, I didn't
know you had a name.
Yeah, that never knew you had a name,
I
and
was
it's
like, Arcturus? I didn't know you could be this.
Yeah,
So
I love Arcturus a lot.
That exchange is great.
And so Paige and Arcturus both realize that Jackson is not going to be killed by a gun that day. And they both kind of like consign themselves to that fate. And as they're leaving, as they're getting all the prisoners out, Jackson has released the Ripper. And he's like, let's make this interesting, right? And it's so frustrating to me because time and time again, we're shown Paige is not willing to end Jackson's life. But Jackson has no issue putting her into like really mortal danger. Like that could have
no problem
He
killing.
doesn't have morals.
Yeah.
He doesn't have morals.
And so we see them struggling to get out. Arcturus is like, leave me, get the prisoners. And she has this moment where she asks him, like, do you still want to be with me? And it is what he needs to be asked in order to like actually get out of that situation. We find the missing Grand Duke, and we find his sister, and the prisoners are getting out. We find out that forgot his name, the one with an L.
Oh, Leander.
Yeah. He has basically I don't want to say double crossed, but he hasn't told Paige everything. He was never planning on helping all the prisoners out. And they're getting away, right? And things seem to not be going great, right?
Yeah.
All of these people are trying to get back into these tunnels, back into a way to get out of there.
We know from book 1 that running through a forest from a meme is a death sentence of its
is bad. Is a bad situation for anybody.
Yeah.
And so we end up getting to a point where back in the carriers, and there's a key point where not only is Paige having to deal with her fears and having to deal with the water and the tight spaces and thinking she's going to die and gets rid of the pill that's going to make it like a painless death. She really resigns herself to, if I'm going to make it out of here, if I'm going to die, either way, I'm fighting for it. And that was incredibly brave of her, given the fact that she's dealing with that very heated trauma.
Yeah.
But I immediately clocked there is a person that comes to save her at one point. And she says, like, wait, I know you. She's not able to clock him. She's not able to place who he is. And he specifically says, like, you never did, darling.
No, darling, you never did.
And I clocked it immediately and I wrote it down. And I was like, if this isn't Jackson, I am confused. And
I completely forgot.
And so, yeah. And so when she starts seeing, when she runs into the people again, when she gets out of the situation, she's like, hey, like, who was that guy? And they were like, oh, it was some silver-haired Scottish dude. Like, no biggie, right? And I was like, guys, we can't ignore this. Like, we needed whatever. And it kind of goes past her. Like, she has more things to focus on in that moment.
It went over my head.
So she, like, whatever. And so I was like, man, this is crazy to me. And so we find out that Arcturus has been at her side the entire time that she is trying to, come back to life, basically.
And the one time that he's not.
She wakes up. Pure timing. And you don't get to
Paige
talk about
Mahoney, it hurts.
Because going to get food for everyone.
Yeah, he's like, they look like they're starving. Like, and so
Paige Mahoney, it hurts.
And so she prompts the conversation once again of them having any sort of romantic togetherness. And he's like, hey, do you want to go back to the safe house? And she's like, yes, right? And I was like, here we go.
Wait. We should
Yes,
go
go for it.
back because Nadine talks with Paige, and
Oh,
we
yes,
learn a
yes.
little bit about
Mm-hmm.
Nadine's motives. Nadine was so desperate and crazy and making such terrible decisions because she's trying to get her and her brother back to the free world.
Mm-hmm.
And Paige sort of recognizes that, I always knew she had her own motives. Now I'm glad that I know, maybe I can help her get back.
Yeah.
And Nadine and Zeke make the amazing offer to go to the free world and get the news out about the truth about Scion,
Mm-hmm.
which is, if you know anything about news in autocracies, it's very controlled, it's very watered down. Stuff doesn't get out. There's a phrase a phrase that says democracy dies in the dark. And
Mm-hmm.
it usually lends credence to when we no longer know what's happening inside of a place that is being conquered.
Yeah, which is
And
why
so
social media and TikTok is constantly being threatened to be banned and all of these things.
Correct.
that's true. And so Zeke and Nadine are like, no more of that. We want to go and get the word out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an incredible offer. And immediately Paige is like, okay, that's something I should prioritize. I should get them the funds to get out.
Yeah. And also before all this, she ends up going and she ends up speaking with the Grand Duke that had been missing. The reason
The
I'm not saying his
orphan.
name is I don't do well with the French accents and the names. So I'm just,
The orphan.
yeah, some,
In English, he's the old
Old
orphan. So we
orphan.
could call him the
yeah.
old orphan.
And so they have a really nice conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And
They're very
he has
like-minded.
basically said, yeah, he has basically said, like, if you are willing, I will do this thing where I'm going to basically bring the other two up for justice. I will take over as, the one in charge, and I will align myself with you guys, and we will work together to defeat Zion and all of these things. Then, moving
Things are
forward,
going really great. I mean,
which is the
like
sign,
at this
which is
point,
the sign.
exactly.
Oh, he gives her a mask that
Yeah, he
has
gives
a
her a
Does
moth
give her a
mask
painted
mask.
on it.
that
Yeah,
he
And he's
custom made.
which is huge
Mm-hmm.
because it becomes a thing moving
Yeah.
forward.
he gives us a little foreshadowing where he's like, I have a mask, I wear it, helps me
Well, he can't take it
compartmentalize.
off. Like, it's like,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
well, he used to use it to compartmentalize, and he can't.
Yeah.
He's been
Mhm.
he's been cursed by a romantasy novel. He
Yeah.
cannot take his mask
Really.
off.
Mhm. And so then that is when the conversation happens with her and Arcturus, and they go back to the safe house,
Yep.
and they have a really honest conversation, I think, where Paige is like, I want to be with you. I was wrong to do this. And he shuts her down.
I wanted you, Paige. I still do. But to place you in greater danger than you have already faced, to prize that desire above your life is more than I can justify. It was selfish to take you in my arms, knowing that what that touch could bring. And I
Yeah. And
said, ouch.
yeah. And so I immediately was like, there's no way you're doing this to me right now. And so he shuts her down, and she's like, okay, cool. Didn't think that's how this was going to go. And she tries to go to sleep. Obviously, she can't. And then he shows up in her room.
Yeah.
And he has basically denounced what he just said. And he was like, I
can
can't.
offer you nothing, only a song in the shadows.
Yep. And then she says, sing it to me. And like, so they end up sleeping together. And it's a really beautiful scene. Not just like, I think Samantha does it really well. Like, Kayla knows this firsthand. I have been burnt out from spicy scenes. So I really appreciated that this one.
This wasn't so much about the spice, it was about the intimacy between the two of them and letting their guards down and being just Paige and Arcturus instead of
But it
Warden
was
and Blackhawk.
but it also had its moment of spice though, because he like tells her, he's like, this is an overture. Like, this is a duet. This is gonna take time, kind of thing. Like, he's in his little old-fashioned way, being like, practice makes perfect, and we'll do this together.
And he loves music.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
he's using
Mhm.
it. And here's why I think that this spice reads differently from the spice that we're used to. It's not often that we get a POV of a heroine who is demisexual, meaning that she needs things to register emotionally for her to feel any sort of arousal. So Samantha Shannon had to communicate the intimacy and the spice from an emotional area only. Like
Right.
briefly she touches on like the feeling of skin, but there's no like his chiseled abs and chest and
lack of belly button, you know, all of the
his
things.
Kyle XY abs.
Yeah.
That's a throwback.
So I think that's why it reads so different, is because Paige is demisexual, so it has to register differently.
And it
And I
also,
really love it.
yeah, it also is really nice because we have the buildup of them and their relationship growing over the last few books. And so no one can say it was rushed. No one can say that there wasn't a lot of thought into how it was going to happen. And so they have this moment, right? And he tells her, because of his gift, right, that he's never going to forget this room and he's never going to forget, you know, what they've shared and stuff like that. And then shortly thereafter, right, he is dealing with the effects of the poltergeist and he's dealing with all of that. And he's kind of left out of commission a little bit. Like he is kind of dealing with trying to just feel better again. He's sleeping a lot.
We
And
learned that he did bring Amaranth,
but was
not
saving it for
himself.
her.
Saving it for Paige.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Paige is like,
And
that's stupid. You need to take some of it.
yeah. And so then she realizes that she needs to go to Leander and everything.
Leander
Well,
comes
Leander
in and is like,
yeah.
we need
Yeah.
to talk about this, because if you're going to be involved, I'm going to be
I'm second
involved.
hand.
And
Like,
we
My
need
boyfriend says that we can't be fighting
Yes.
if we're going to work
Yeah.
together.
Exactly.
Do you want to go play Assassin's Creed with me on Notre Dame?
Yeah. Parkour.
And so they
Parkour.
leave, right? And then very soon after they have this conversation and they kind of, you know, come to some sort of terms, we see a lot of cars are rushing towards where Paige was staying. And so she starts screaming down the bond, like, Arcturus, get out. Like, and he tries, you know, he is alert enough to try. And we find out that he was taken.
We learn that he's like, before he can really do anything, they hit him and bring him down, and he's dragged out.
Yeah.
She can feel it through the ether.
And so we obviously find out later on that he had enough foresight to do a couple things before he gets taken, which is probably why he is able to be taken. Because yes.
I was going to say, the wording of he was going back to his dark room, the one he had never truly escaped. Nashira had no more use for him now. She knew from experience that he was too strong to give way under torture, that all she could do was dispose of him. And then I have questions for Samantha Shannon. How dare you?
Yep.
Who do you think you are? And what gives you the right?
Yep.
And
because going back to this whole idea that we have spent many books having them fall for each other, having it be to where that final time that they are able to be together is well earned and it feels well thought out, right? The pain that the last parts of this book really give us also feel well thought out and meticulously planned. And I just want to know, like, who hurt her leading up to that writing.
Y'all, we know this was writing some devastating fanfic back in her day.
Yeah, somebody hurt her incredibly thoroughly, and she took note and said, I could actually do that better. You are not very special.
To do that better, let's talk about even
and worldwide. You know, like
The next
and so and so Paige Paige does not hesitate. She says, I'm going to go after Arcturus
immediately.
And she says, you know, he's done this for me. He's taken bullets for me. He's done all of this. I'm going to go after and get him out.
And the best part about it is the way that nobody questions her. And they're immediately like, yes, what do you need? What do you need from us? How can we help you?
Yeah,
and
Leander
she takes the help.
Yeah, because she's not risking Arcturus.
She takes the help. That is what we call growth.
It's growth. Paige is
only to be
always
slapped
moving,
in the face, you know?
she's only moving forward. But we'll keep going before we discuss that more.
And so
Oh.
she works to get to Arcturus, right? And
Yes, she finds
when
him in
she
an old chapel.
yeah, she finds him in Sistine Chapel. And things are different.
The way that this is executed
is brilliant.
The way you feel it with her.
Brilliantly painful.
He basically pulls the rug out from under her and says that all along he has been a spy for Nashira.
He starts calling her 40 instead of Paige.
He starts calling her by her number, starts calling her flesh worm.
Don't call me Arcturus. She's not allowed to call him that.
Does all of the things, right, that he has never done. And he is very much almost gloating to her. Like, you know how much information I now know. Like, I'm going to ruin everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that you were doing, right?
And we talked about this, what Jackson had put in her head.
Yes.
Yep. 2 books ago, her greatest fear.
Yeah.
And it's very easy for me I am aware of this is going to sound funny, but I'm aware of the privilege it is to be the audience or the reader of this series and not be in the series, right? Because from an audience point of view, I was immediately like, that's not Arcturus. There's some sort of body snatching happening, right? Not because I couldn't think of that being a plot twist worthy of Samantha Shannon, right? I 100% was like, if anybody can do this, it's Samantha Shannon, right? Yeah. But there was just something, I don't know if it was because I had like
suddenness of it.
It's also, we have to think about the fact that this man handmade a music box as part of a long con.
Yeah. Like, and it's like a lot of things there was just a lot of parts in the series leading up to this that I was like, there's no way that this is a long con. I was like, he's either been body snatched or he has been threatened, right? I did not think.
How is he body snatched? Because Paige is the only Dreamwalker.
Yeah, and so
the part where I was like, I literally have this note. I'm begging Paige not to let her pride blind her here. Is when he reaches up to hit her and potentially kill her, and then he stops. It says, death never came. Just before Arcturus could land the blow, his eyes gave a livid flare, and he pulled his arm back so hard it was as if it had been wrenched by a string, or a shield had flown up in front of me. Such was my shock, all I could do was stare at him in silence. No, he said after a long beat. Even with my gloves, I will not dirty my hand. And she even says, Arcturus Mesarthon, as I had known him, would never have raised a hand to a human, not to me, not for anything.
Yeah, and so it's really frustrating because that's the first point where it's very clearly in front of you, like somebody is controlling. Like there is a puppeteer behind the thing, right? And
but then why would Paige think that when she thinks she's the only Dreamwalker and that
and so it puts Paige, that's why I'm saying it's such a it's hard to have it feel like a privilege because as the audience it still hurts. It's still a very like gut-wrenching scene.
Yeah.
Right? But it makes you understand as to why Paige could fall for it. Because she's like, man, like there's no way that this man did this to me. Right? But we have routinely spoken about the fact that I am the only Dreamwalker, that Nashira doesn't have access to another Dreamwalker. That's why she's obsessed with me. And
it's not possible. And he's working overtime.
He's selling it.
He's selling it.
And
then we get the best, in my opinion, the best Paige scene we've gotten in this entire series.
Go.
When she is it
401?
Yeah, like the entire page is just her, like she just explodes. That was when I surrendered to it. The hopelessness, the terror, and confusion and rage. I pulled it all in and let it all out.
Yeah, and she
brought all of the refs to their knees.
She even made Nashira take a step back, and then she hits with the banger, "Tell Gomisa the moths are coming, and there are more of us than you can count." This is why Arcturus chose her.
Yes. Because that's the thing, is ultimately in that moment, right? She has been hurt beyond levels of hurt that she has endured. Like, she has been waterboarded, she has been tortured, she has been all of, like, people she loves has been killed, right? But in that moment,
nothing
it was
had
the one
her
thing
worse.
Because it wasn't even just the betrayal to her. It was the fact that what that would mean for the revolution. Going back to how she puts the revolution above everything else. Her being like, okay, you couldn't have just broken my heart. Yep. You also had to like
everything is compromised. Everybody is compromised, and it's my fault.
And Jackson foreshadows this moment earlier when you quoted it. Who can break you now that there's nothing left to break? And there's one person, and it's Arcturus, and he just did it.
Yep. And what's so interesting, though, is even from the audience POV of trying to put why is all of this happening together, it's so nice to know that no matter what's going on, right? We know what happens later on in this book. We'll get to it in a second, right? We know that there is still Arcturus and Paige, if that makes sense, because we know that even while being controlled by whatever is controlling him at this point, we don't know, he was still able to take control enough to not hit her.
Yeah.
And I think that is incredibly important. That's a solace that I didn't know I needed, you know?
I completely agree. And the first time I read this chapter, I felt very much like you. I was very frustrated with Paige. I was like, maybe it's just because I'm the reader, but I feel like she's being so dumb not seeing that Arcturus is clearly not doing this. Like, I know that she has no explanation, but it should be obvious to you.
Yeah.
And then reading it a second time, I don't know if it's the author's preferred text that does it or what, but I understood a little better because so much of the stuff he says is very carefully crafted to hit
those insecurities and hit those chinks in her armor.
He went to hit her. He referenced their intimacy. He referenced Jackson. And she even points out, like, and I think that Samantha Shannon chooses her words carefully because I think she knows that she can't sell us, the audience.
Yeah, but she needs to sell it to Paige. Yeah.
But she can tell, she does things to tell us, like, I know you're not buying it. That's fine. Such as being like, Paige admits that she is too hurt, terrorized, and confused. Paige admits she's too shocked to think more about him not hitting her.
Yeah, if there was more time, they probably would have dissected it more in that moment. But a lot of things happen very quickly.
Yes. And I feel like that awareness is more emphasized in the author's preferred. Well, in the author's preferred text, this awareness that I'm not going to buy Arcturus as a traitor is emphasized more than it was for me in the original one. Because in the original one, I was like, Samantha, you can't convince me that this is real. And then in this one, I'm like, oh, it's not supposed to register as like this twist. This is our climax.
Yeah, the twist is not the fact that he could betray us.
No.
And so Paige immediately starts compartmentalizing, right? She steps into
the black moth
being the black moth because she's like,
with her mask.
His name.
Yeah, she even in her inner monologue starts saying blood consort. Yep. You know, like, she is compartmentalizing the crap out of everything. And it's another trauma response that I don't think gets enough recognition, because she does this when it comes to the waterboarding, right? Every single time that has scared her, she is compartmentalized to be like, I am not there. I am, I am here. I'm doing this for the revolution, whatever. Right. So once she gets dealt another traumatic hand, she immediately compartmentalizes and blocks it out once again, which the psych in me really.
She doesn't have therapy boyfriend to help her this time.
Yeah. So she's like, no, I have to shut it down.
She
Yeah,
has to default to what she knows and what she's comfortable with.
Yeah, she
Shut
goes
it down, avoid it, keep going.
Yeah, she goes into like ER mode where she's like, okay, I have this gaping wound here, so I'm going to staunch it, put something to stop the bleeding, but then I'm moving on, right? And she immediately gets into action of I need the syndicate to know that we are compromised. And then we find out, and she pulls such a beautiful move. We find out that she has had shadow houses in place that even the Ranthan don't know about in case the Ranthan were to betray.
And
because she believes that Terrible would have done it. Like,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. She has this she's always had this foresight that they might betray me, because Jackson got that far in her head too.
Yeah. So it's not really all that a surprise that she believes that Arcturus has betrayed her, because it's always been there in the back of her mind.
Well, yeah, and we've always heard that from her. And then
that needs to be definitely a conversation they have inevitably.
Well,
Samantha, if we don't get this conversation, it's on site.
Izzy, start reading.
No, I was gonna say we do. Right after we're done, I'm diving in. No, I will say I think the thing about Paige that we've talked about that sets her apart as a heroine and sets Samantha Shannon apart as a writer is that Paige is always moving forward. And we never thought about how, like, what contributes to that. And it's her open Arcturus embracing the soft side of her that Jackson never embraced. And now that she's turned herself into, by her own words, the Steel Queen, she's stagnant. And I don't see her. We're going to see, I think, her become, and we do towards the end of this book, we see a Jackson-y side to her. This performative, very calculating, cold person, but not so cold that when she meets up with Nadine and Zeke in the next chapter to bring them up to speed on the betrayal, that she gives Nadine and Zeke all the money Arcturus left behind so that they can go to the free world. And then this book does the most sinister thing it's ever done in the whole series, and that's make me agree with Nadine, who says,
come with us.
How can you be sure how can you be sure Warden betrayed us? Nadine asked. What did he say? Enough. No way. You didn't see how he was in Passy. He did not
Nadine's the only one to be like, wait a second.
Yeah, Nadine's like,
there's no, like, and that's so interesting to me because Nadine is like, listen, I don't know about you guys, but we kind of are like in a business of dealing with con man, right? I'm pretty good at sussing them out. That's not one, you know? And Paige has compartmentalized so hard that she's like, even if it's not, I can't deal with that right now. Like,
I can't feel culpable ever again. Because even Arcturus tells her in his big monologue, now you're realizing how complicit you are. And she's like, I never want to feel that again.
Yeah. And so a lot starts happening, right? This is where my notes get very quick.
So excited.
By this point, Izzy is in the call when I'm finishing reading, right? Clock is ticking for me. And we find out one very important thing, or multiple important things, but the one that first happens is the fact that the Rag and Bone Man, one of my suspicions was correct. And it was, in fact, stupid little Alfred, which first off, how dare you have the name Alfred and then turn out to be the bad guy? Because you gotta pick your battles there. You already have a name that sucks. You're gonna decide that you are one of the big bads.
It's another Carl.
It's crazy to me. Like, Shannon really went, let's give the worst names to some of the most annoying characters.
But it makes sense, doesn't it? He's the only one who could have edited the thing before.
And it's once again the privilege of being the reader, because I was like, I saw this coming. Why are we confused?
You did guess like 6 people. Both of you guessed like 8 people. And when you finally said Alfred, I went back and I watched my face. I went,
yeah. and it's so interesting to me because this happens, right? And then she decides, she and the rest of the French Citadel, is that they're going to make a deal with Maynard. The deal being very simply.
Wait. We gotta go back. We can't skip something super important. Which is that when they find Alfred, he is dying. He's been gutted. His intestines are in his lap. And he tells us that, oh, Jackson told me he would kill me if I
Yep.
ever laid another hair on your touched a hair on your head. He makes good on his promises. And then Paige realizes the flowers on
Love the
Alfred's
language of
body
flowers, man.
represent paternal error. Jackson accepting that
He had
he
left Alfred
fucked
alive for too
up.
long. Yeah.
Yeah, he messed up leaving Alfred alive for too long. He failed on a paternal level to
hmm
Paige.
I
He
think I
doesn't
would rather
know.
Darth Vader, man. I think I would just rather Darth Vader.
When I was awestruck, I forgot about this revelation.
Yep.
Jackson is such a wild card. And I feel like what we see with this moment with Jackson is that he says, no, I don't have room for morals, Paige. In fact, here's Jack the Ripper. He's going to take you out for me. But like Paige has said, that's not natural. That's not
Right.
normal to not feel compassion. It's always going to be there. I think that Jackson realizes that just as unnatural as control with an autocracy, cold-heartedness towards your common man is also not natural, and it
Correct.
always gets him in the end.
Yeah, I think multiple things with Jackson are really interesting because one, he makes the choice to save Paige
Yeah.
after the fire, knowing that she had basically left him for dead. Like knowing that she wasn't going to be able to pull the trigger on him, but she definitely was not going into the fire to save him if he was not able to save himself.
I have a theory about that. But go ahead. I'll tell you in a minute.
You're good. I was just going to say, so then they decide that they're going to make that deal with Maynard, right? And basically what the deal is pretty simple. It's pretty cut and dry, right?
Mhm.
We won't actively work against you. We will both try to take out the Sargas and yeah.
Truce.
And just we're gonna put a pause on our beef for a while.
A truce. We will work towards our common enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And
The
Menard
enemy
says,
of my enemy is my friend. I
Yeah.
guess.
for now.
For now.
And Maynard's really interesting to me because he's very like cut and dry for me. Like he's very like all
There's
of you
not
guys
a
are
lot
bad.
of gray there for him.
Yeah.
No.
It's very
He
black
is
and
very
white.
black. Yeah.
And so we run into Kate again.
Wait.
right?
Wait.
We got to take it back though.
Uh-huh.
We're skipping over a chunk. We can't not talk
Speed
about
read this,
how
guys.
Ducos comes and talks to Paige and provides the backpack, which Paige then goes and like finds the music box that Arcturus made for her and wants to throw it off the roof, but she can't. In the same way that she couldn't kill
But the
Jackson,
fact that
she
it's even
couldn't.
in the backpack, you
Pointedly,
wait.
yeah. He pointedly, before Arcturus was captured, he made no attempt to save himself. He knew it was futile. But he did save the music box and the will
This isn't a
that
con
her
man,
dad,
guys.
and he threw it out the window. And
Mhm.
Paige goes, hold on, the broken down door, the saving the music box.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can't afford to even consider that
Right.
he was ever genuine. And then she doesn't throw the music box off the ledge. She opens it, and we sorry, not the music box. She opens the will that her dad left her.
Yes.
Mhm.
And there's a
finds
note inside.
From Jackson.
That mother
Stupid
of
little
her
man.
again.
Stupid little man.
The thing, he is a stupid little man. He's not a good person.
So frustrating.
He really, whether he wants to admit it or not, he loves Paige, and
He loves
he's
her.
really mad that her dad never made it clear where his allegiance lay. Because I think to Jackson, the biggest crime her dad committed isn't the fact that he's amorotic. It's the fact that he left Paige wondering where she stood with him.
Yep.
And for all of Jackson's faults, he wanted Paige to know that he saw her as his successor. Yes, she's a pawn.
Even now he's still like, hey, come work with me.
Yeah.
We'll be okay.
What is a Molisher without her Mime Lord?
He thinks that he's her dad. And he's
Yeah.
like, your dad did leave you something.
Yeah.
I have it if you want it. Please come back to me.
Yeah, and she's like, "You're not my dad." Like that is the connection between the two is. He's like, I am your dad. And she goes, no.
No,
I refuse.
this isn't love. He doesn't know what love looks
Yeah.
like. So this is the only way he knows how to give it.
And so Maynard
then-
ends up agreeing to this truce.
Yes, for 2 years. But
2 years.
2 years.
if he sees them make a single move against him,
Yeah.
he's going to start.
He's gonna go crazy, you know? But like, it's cool. Live your life. I get it.
Yeah.
And so then she makes the plea again to Cade and says, like, hey, if you want to leave, you know, come, we'll be good. Right?
You should leave because that baby's gonna get born, and if it's yours, you're
if it
gonna
looks
get
like you, man.
Yeah.
If it looks like you, and if it has oracle powers like you.
Yeah. If it quacks like a duck and looks like a duck, dude, you might be fucked. I don't know.
You might be a dead duck. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they might be having duck for dinner. And he goes, okay, meet me on the roofs, right?
Yeah.
We're
gonna go for a walk.
Remind all the listeners, your girl don't like ambiguity.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
I would not have gone to the roofs.
Paige,
I don't care. Paige being Paige, I get it, right? But if you're not going to explicitly tell me, like, hey, be on the roof so we can, like...
No, I don't think it's Paige being Paige, because I think if Paige was being Paige, she would have been like, Leander, come with me.
Yeah.
But Paige is right now, Paige is the Steel Queen. And what she
Black
sees
Moth.
in Cade, she does not see in Cade a ambiguous threat. She sees a potential spy in Menard's house that she can leverage. She is thinking only as the Steel Queen and not as Paige Mahoney, because Paige Mahoney wouldn't have fucked up like this.
Nope.
And so it all goes downhill pretty rapidly from this point.
And why is that?
Because Cade, of all things, is not a silly little oracle. He is a dreamwalker.
Yep.
He possessed Arcturus. Paige realizes one thing very quickly, and she...
wait, what does Fitzhorse mean?
Son of the bear.
And what does Mahoney mean?
Son of the bear.
And they're both dreamwalkers.
And my thing is, right? This problem that Paige realizes in terms of how quickly she believed Arcturus was bad, she remembers something, right? I need her to have, like, whatever gives you better memory, whatever supplement it is, I need Paige to, like, eat more of it, right? Like, she goes like, wait, he said that there's one thing that no matter what distance or whatever, everybody would be able to see
something
and know.
That would betray you if anyone but me could see.
And it was his dreamscape. And it was the fact that in his dreamscape, right, it would be very clear how much Paige actually meant to him, right? And having that happen, she has that realization of like, oh, crap. He wasn't faking it. He has been possessed. And she has all this thing. She gets...
His dreamscape is the guild hall where he first kissed her.
Yeah.
And Samantha Shannon hid that very cleverly by describing the guild hall as having scarlet curtains, and then the dreamscape has crimson drapes. So very well played, Shannon.
Yeah, I guess. It's fine. I love her.
Guess it. I asked you every video if you knew, and you did not guess.
No, I meant I guess, as in like, I guess, good job, Shannon.
She's still bitter.
But
can we also, like, before that, can we talk about the medium that grabs Paige and goes, the devil has deceived you? The third card, 2 horns, 2 wings, 2 cloven hooves.
Why did you not heed the
cards?
Why
did you not heed the cards, Paige? Why did you not listen?
Yeah.
Do we believe that to be Liz? Because I believe that to be Liz.
I think it's Liz, yes.
I think that's Liz being like, I told you.
Bro, I told you to stay close to the lovers.
We were talking about, we wish that was happening. We were talking about how Arcturus is something that would betray you if anyone but me could see.
Dreamscape.
Yeah, the dreamscape. Yes.
The dreamscape.
And so she has a lot of these realizations.
Medium.
Yeah. And so we have a lot of realizations, right? There's a lot of like, oh, I should have known better kind of thing. Paige has these feelings all very quickly.
So we
Uh-huh.
can't just blow past this.
I
One,
wasn't blowing past nothing.
no, I know. I'm just saying. Luce has been kidnapped.
Yeah, Luce
Yes.
is missing.
Luce is missing, and bombs are being dropped on Paris.
And who released Paige from her cell?
Corny!
Corner
Because he made
Force.
an oath.
He came up to her and he was like, "You didn't come back for me, and
Mhm.
so," and then he rips the chains out of the wall. And he's like, "All right, my debt is repaid," and then he disappears.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've got many questions as to what this debt was. My theory is that
Yeah.
somehow this debt has to do with Arcturus.
Oh yeah,
That's the only
Yeah.
connection there. That's the only connection there.
Arcturus was he didn't really tell us and he's not the type to be like,
He's not a kiss and
let
tell, you know?
me tell you everything this man did to me.
Yeah.
He's not the type. So I have a feeling that he owes something. Yeah.
And so Cade basically comes clean and is like, hey, Dreamwalker here. Everything is bad. And she starts running from the bombs, as one does, right?
Yeah.
There's
Well,
a
she's
line where
running
she says,
toward Arcturus.
yes, but she's also trying to avoid being blown up.
Yeah.
And there's a really nice line where she says, like, I was no longer Under Queen, I was no longer Molisher, I was no longer any of these things. I was just a person running for their life.
Mhm.
And so she's running towards Arcturus because she has, like we said, that realization of like, oh my goodness, I left him there. Like I didn't believe him.
I left him in his dark room.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying a conversation between them really needs to be had at some point. Obviously, things are going to get messier with what we're about to talk about, but they need to have a conversation where they're like, this lack of trust thing needs to be nipped in the bud, right?
Correct.
Like, no matter what happened, there is no reason that she should have believed it.
Well, she admits what it is that kept her from it, and it's Jackson.
Yeah.
She says when she's in the room with Jackson, she's like, if I get rid of you, I get rid of this weird affection I have that I have towards you. And it's the thing that stands between her and Arcturus is Jackson.
Yeah.
But it's also like I don't know to what degree Cade is also in between them. And I only say Cade because they say that the devil in her pull of her tarot cards will try to get between her and Arcturus, her and the lover card.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think clearly the devil card has been Cade.
Yeah.
But we'll get to who else the devil is as well.
Yeah. And so
she's running towards the golden cord that's pulling her towards Arcturus.
And I don't even want to talk about it, man.
And then a bomb drops on the building that Arcturus is in. And Paige...
After this devastating 2 lines of just Paige, question mark, Arcturus, and then a bomb.
Yep.
Yeah. Because and that's the thing that's like, at least we can't talk about it because it happened and we don't want the Bloomsbury gods existing. The fact that no matter what happened the moment that bomb went off, the fact that he knows she was coming back helps me in my heart.
Yeah.
Because you know that he had to be sitting with like, no matter what, everything we went through, no matter what we spent that night doing, no matter the fact that I thought we went through this, right? She still believed it.
Well, and him going, why'd I have to do my stupid little riddle puzzle? If I had just told her what my dreamscape was, none of this would have happened. But I had to
him being like, I had to be all mysterious, keep my enigma. And so I know that he's having those conversations with himself. So it had to have been something that was really like, oh my God, she's still coming for me, right? Like, And so then a bomb goes off.
Yep.
And she's
And when she
dealing
comes to,
with that. Comes
it's
to.
wrecked.
Everything's wrecked. She can't feel him. She doesn't
She
know.
tries to grab the cord. And she says it slips through her fingers.
Yeah.
And she looks upon the wreckage and she thinks to herself, I don't even think that a reframe could have survived that.
And she crumbles. She cracks. She breaks.
She crumbles, yeah.
And then an interesting thing happens.
Yep. A pair of buckled shoes, black against the slush, hair less gray than mine. For context, dear listeners, the hair less gray than mine implies that the person who comes up was not outside when all of these bombs were dropping.
Almost like they knew when they would be dropping.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And
who was that person, Kayla?
Courtier. The person who's been missing.
The listener. Yeah.
Who's been missing
for
since
months.
The Vigils captured Arcturus. They found her blood outside of the safe house, and Domino program presumed her captured or dead.
And they say no rescues, so they didn't look into it.
And then
this organization kind of sucks at their job.
It truly does.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Courtier is trying to get Paige up, trying to get Paige moving. And she goes, I'm sorry, Paige, I have to do this, she said, her voice almost tender, and no longer French. It's for your own good, I promise. Everything that happens next is for good. Before I could stop her, she clamped a cloth over my nose and mouth. It smelled of white flowers. It smelled of oblivion.
Yep.
She breathed it in.
And so Paige Mahoney.
The devil was twofold.
Yeah.
Not just Cade.
Domino.
Maybe Domino. Maybe just
Domino.
Courtier.
I just think Courtier. Yeah.
I think it's Domino. I haven't trusted Tukos this entire time.
Listen, I think this trifling ass, I'm a flirt with this man, doctor.
Yeah.
Is another Warden just needs to be less cute is the moral of this story.
That's what she meant with this whole story.
Yeah, is the moral of the story was date people that other people aren't going to be attracted to upon first glance because they will drug you.
Yeah.
I think I don't think it's Domino, and I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. Domino, one, they give her the tools even after she leaves to elude them. They give her a dissimulator, and they also promise to help her. And
with
also,
the mime order.
Yeah, with the mime order going against Scion. And also, Dukos was genuinely in the dark about Courtier being gone. She was like, I haven't found Courtier. I don't know where she is. She's gone.
Yeah.
So I think it's just Courtier. I think Courtier and Cade are working for the same person.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Jackson is also working for this person.
My thing is,
literally wrote that down. I wonder if Cade and Jackson are working together.
I'm curious if Courtier was already a double agent.
Oh, yeah. No, the lateness.
She has an accent.
Like, the lateness with which she showed up, how she was on a different assignment.
Yeah.
I think that there is another organization. I think we'll learn about them in the next.
We learn about the
And I think it's got Cade. I think it's got Jackson. I think that I know where Michael is. I think that Jackson has Michael. I don't know if Michael is like.
But also, we're not mentioning something, right? Where the hell is Julian?
Where is Julian?
Because we haven't seen him since the first book. We know that he is a fugitive.
Yep. Well, we saw him in the mime order.
He's still alive. No, did we see him? Did we see him in the mime order? No,
we saw him in the mime order. We saw that he was wanted in the mime order.
Who was the? Oh no! Wait, was that a different J name? Hold on.
Yeah, you're thinking of Joss.
Thank you.
Mhm,
Thank you.
yeah.
Julian has been absent, and he was
But he
kind of
keeps getting mentioned, you know, which
And
is usually the telltale sign of like, hey, there's something else going on here.
his backstory of getting caught where he was just going out for milk.
Yeah. It's an odd one.
You mean like how Cade got picked up just because he was working somewhere and
He was working.
he was suspected
Yeah.
and
I
picked up
think
from his DOS house?
the other reason I think that there's another organization is because one, I do think that Terabel and Arcturus are going to have a reckoning.
Mhm.
And two, this thing with Menard, I think Menard is going to be one of the final big bad. Like I think that there will be a reckoning with the suzerain,
Mhm.
and then the peace between Menard and Paige will be over. And then what's left of the Ranthan and the Buoyants will have to go against
How many
Menard.
books are
And
left in this series?
there's going to be, I believe, 7 total. So
Two more
Solid.
after the Dark Mirror,
after
there's
the
2
Dark
more.
Mirror, 2 more.
Looking
Yeah.
forward to my retirement.
Yeah, we'll be back on a Zoom when we're like jars, like heads in jars.
Yeah.
It's okay. I trust her. She can take as long as she
Yes.
needs.
Mm-hmm. This. Oh.
So here's an interesting tidbit, which I also discovered while I was Charlie Daying it last night. Did you know that Orson as a meaning for a name is bear cub?
Who's named Orson?
Orson.
Emma
Menard?
Orson, the other Dreamwalker that
Oh.
they lost, that the Ranthan helped escape, and Arcturus isn't sure if she was murdered by the Ripper or if she lived.
Yeah. So everybody who's Dreamwalker seems to have a bear thing going on.
Yeah.
Well, I also recently on Samantha Shannon's QAs, she mentioned that we were going to learn more about Paige's mother soon.
Oh, you mean how she had this mysterious son named Cade? Because that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm assuming.
know. Because Cade sounds like he looks a lot like Paige's dad.
Mhm.
He has the red hair. He has the
Mhm.
freckles.
Which would make it
Shannon,
really odd considering he had, even if it was a ploy, offered to sleep with Paige.
I'm wondering if he knew. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if he
only offered to sleep with her to throw her off his. He
Yeah,
thought
but if she would have said yes, what would have happened then?
he would have turned her down. He would have turned her down.
I don't
I
believe
think
you
he
for
had
a
no
second.
intention of. I think he knew she wasn't going to say yes.
I don't know if he knows or how closely they're related, but I feel like they might share a mom. Yeah.
At least a mother, if not both parents.
So we know walking into the future,
Yes.
Paige will have no memory.
Yeah.
Right? Because we know that was the white aster that she got from
Cordier.
from Flirter McFlirterton.
Yeah.
We know that we don't know what happened to Arcturus.
Yeah.
Right? But the fact that the golden cord is slimy, right, means that it still exists.
It still exists. Also, to get meta with it, Samantha Shannon has said multiple times that she adores Arcturus. I do think she would take him off the
through an explosion.
No,
you know,
it
she
wouldn't
likes
make
him
sense
too much. And he's part of the whole story.
Yeah.
And he's the
and
main character.
That's
Jackson
never stopped her before.
fun.
It's never stopped her before. Shout out Roots of Chaos. Main character has never saved them.
That's fair. I haven't read the second Roots of Chaos book yet.
I don't want to talk about it. It's fine. But so we know that she has no memory.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that Jackson is missing. Cade is a dreamwalker.
Zeke and Nadine are on their way to the free world. To get the word out.
I want multiple things. We can all talk about what we want from this next book in a second.
Okay.
1, I want to know more about what Nick has got going on. I miss him.
And the fact that Zeke has said that
They're over
Yeah.
they're done.
is crazy to me.
That can't be the truth.
How dare he, first off.
Yeah.
Second, I want Paige. Listen.
Here we go.
Kayla will understand because we're in the middle of reading Heroes of Olympus, right?
Mhm.
I am tired of my powerful baddies losing their memories because some random woman deems it the right call.
Mhm.
I love a memory loss trope, so I'm so excited.
I want her to get her I mean, she has to get her memories back by the end of the book.
I think that
Because it'd be weird for her to not have it.
I think for writing's sake, for story's sake, I think that you have to give it back to her pretty quickly. The only time I've seen the memory loss trope done well is when they get their memories back, not instantaneously, but like
over the course of the book.
Usually within 1/3 of the book, like before the halfway mark.
See, I think that's the thing though, is like, if we're talking for a second, like with the Heroes of Olympus, right? Jason and Percy both don't have their memories in their first book of that series, right? But they don't fully get their memories back until like
the end of the book.
Dang near the end. And I think
you aware of their memories the whole time? You know what they're
You're aware of Percy's because Percy
but not
is,
Jason.
But not Jason. Jason is a new character. So you have no idea who he is.
And so both of them get like glimpses of their memories as the story progresses, but neither one of them gets their like full shebang back until the end of their like introductory book. And because we know that there's only going to be this next book and the book after, Paige has to get, I want her to get her
the next book and then two more.
Oh.
Yeah. 5
Well,
and then 6, 7.
I think Paige
Samantha
has
Shannon isn't George R.R. Martin. We're going to get the 2 more books at some point.
Yeah.
And I think Paige has to get her memories back in a cool way. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want her to get her memories back because like she bonked her head too hard.
Well, they say, in The Mask Falling, she tells Arcturus, hey, I'm worried. They got this white Aster.
Yeah,
what if they
and that he could do something about it. Yeah.
And he goes, that's not going to work on me. I wish White Aster worked on me, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
And maybe I can do something for you.
Right.
So, yeah.
We're going to watch them fall for each other again.
My favorite memory loss trope, like between couples, is when all the memories come back at once after like slowly being reintroduced to each other. Oh, I cannot wait to see how Samantha Shannon does this trope. It is my favorite.
Yeah. What would you like to see in this book, Izzy? It's a lot easier for you to answer because it's,
no, well, obviously I want to see, it's been a while since we've seen Paige on her own. Mm-hmm. So I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, I want them back together right now. I do want to see more of the Steel Queen.
Yes.
Who is
she has to reconcile those two, you know?
Yeah, and she's like making some not great choices as the Steel Queen. And I think that only a little time with Paige as the Steel Queen will show us why it's so important and that she have Arcturus, that she have somebody. I would like to see a reuniting with Nick. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that's
I also possible. Just want her to see reunited with her syndicate.
Yeah, I want Jack Hickathrift back.
Yes.
True.
Please.
I need him to show up and be like, guys,
even if it's
some crazy stuff has happened.
I will take him in whatever form.
As long as it's not an obituary. Mark the words.
It's not that. And then I'd love to see where Michael is. And then the only other 2 things that I will mention that I want to see is, 1, I want to know what Jackson's up to. I want to know if we can hear about that.
Mhm.
And um, I guess like my big hope is the tagline of the Dark Mirror has been everything is about to change. And we've all seen the table of contents. And you guys
Yeah.
are going to think I'm a
I don't
psycho.
look. I don't look.
You guys
I
are going
do.
to think I'm a psycho. I want a major character death.
Listen, with one of the chapters being Persephone, something's gonna hurt.
Yeah. I want a major character death. I feel like we're at this point in the series where you know,
Can it be Jackson? I'm cool with that.
maybe honestly
be.
it could be, it has to be a major character for me, and I want it to, I think the only way that Jackson is going to be taken care of, I think that he's going to go out in a
On
blaze
his
of
own
glory,
terms.
I think
doing something good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if Jackson dies, it's going to be to help Paige with something.
I think that if Jackson dies, it's going to be what J.K. Rowling thought she was giving with Severus Snape.
Yeah.
And yeah, yuck, and bad job with your anti-hero.
Listen, listeners, I'm gonna be perfectly clear about something because we will never go over the Harry Potter series on this channel.
Yeah.
Severus Snape apologists.
Yeah.
I need you to
No.
read the series again.
Yes.
Yeah.
There,
That's it.
people,
That's it. That's it.
real
That's it.
quick,
That's it.
I heard somebody say people who like Severus Snape only liked the movies or only watched the movies, and people who didn't like Severus Snape actually read the books.
I agree with that. And the only time I will ever bring up the monster cretin that is J.K. Rowling is to slander her. And that
correct.
is the worst execution of an anti-hero I have ever read in literature.
Yep.
I think that Jackson is the perfect anti-hero. And I would love for him to sacrifice himself for the greater good in the end. But yeah, I want a major character death.
Cool.
What do you guys want?
You enjoy that.
Not a major. I listen. I want it to hurt. Okay, I want it to hurt. I want to be
Y'all are
biting.
weird.
I want to be biting the book. Listen, if it's gonna be dystopian, then give me dystopian. Give me
They have.
heartbreak.
They have.
Give me
They
emotional
have.
wreckage. Okay,
The boxes have been checked. Why do we need the boxes to be erased to then be checked again?
Because it's fun.
Because we can't have a fake out Arcturus death where she's like, "Oh my god, the golden cord, all this," and then him actually be okay, and then nobody die. That doesn't make sense. I think
it doesn't hurt the same.
The only way we get Arcturus back is if there is a major character death.
And how great would it be if I'm just
If you
saying?
say,
No, I'm not gonna say it now. I'm not gonna
Do
say it
it.
now.
No,
No.
say it. Say it, you
Do it.
coward.
If Nick was the one,
I knew you were gonna say it. I know.
because think about it. It makes sense though. Like all of the things that Nick has done has been to help Paige, to lift her up, to remind her of like who she is and where she comes from and what she stands for, and like he is her big brother, her moral center almost. Like it makes perfect sense to have him sacrifice himself to bring Arcturus back because he knows that the one person in the entire world who can help Paige with what she has to do is Arcturus.
And he doesn't have Zeke anymore.
That too. And it also goes back to her saying there are two people that she would jump and trust to catch her. And Nick knows this. Like Nick knows it. And it makes the most sense. And it would hurt worse.
I just know that at some point he has to.
Listeners, I need you guys to also know something. Kayla is begging for this book to hurt her, but she won't read Song of Achilles.
Listen.
She has flat out refused to me to read it because she doesn't want it to hurt.
We trust, okay? I trust Samantha Shannon to hurt me in a way that's going to feel cathartic without it being mentally draining.
This is Stockholm Syndrome. I need everyone to understand. This is Stockholm.
I almost skipped Song of Achilles for the exact same reason. And then my husband read it and he was like, it's a really good hurt. You gotta read it. And it also has a happier ending than you would think.
See, and my husband said, you won't like it. It will hurt you too much.
It will hurt you, but it doesn't do it needlessly, and it does have, in my opinion, as a fan fiction writer, it has a happy ending, in my opinion.
That's fair. Maybe I'll
So,
consider it.
But I
anyway,
need you
that
guys
was
to understand the hypocrisy that's happening behind the scenes.
Listen,
You know?
it's different. It's an author that I've read that has hurt me already, that I trust to hurt me, but make it in a
This
way
is
that
Stockholm.
makes sense.
this has been our ad read for Song of Achilles. Read Song of Achilles by Madeline.
Yeah.
What I want
Yes.
besides the character death, I want an actual solid answer as to whether Cade and Luce actually slept together. Because I have to be honest, whatever clues were dropped in here, not solid enough for me. All very vague.
Definitely, it's his.
He
You think
literally
so?
says, I'm more than just I think she likes being screwed, or I can screw her in more than one way.
And Luce admits that it's
He
like,
says that Benoit will not fault her for falling under
Yeah.
the spell.
What do you think the spell was?
What do you think this was?
But if you notice, she gathers her composure before she says that.
Yeah, because she doesn't want Paige to know. It scares her for her husband to think that
Kayla,
she slept
you're
with
a
an
parent.
unnatural.
Huh?
Kayla, you're a parent, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how that would work.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just giving
You know
you
how
tips.
babies are made,
No,
right?
here's the thing. There's just something about that plot line that bothers me.
She's got weird takes sometimes.
do-
I love her.
No. You're right. There's something fishy. Here's what I think it is. I don't think that Cade feels anything for her. I think whoever he's working with was like, seduce Luce, get her pregnant with an unnatural baby, and put her in a terrible position with her husband, who she's super close with. And I think that that's what the weird thing is I think he did this as an assignment. And his thing about, I need to stay and see if the baby when it's born, it's something I need to do. It's less emotional for him, and he's more like, I need to make sure that I did a good job of giving.
I need to
this
make sure that
lady-
I didn't miss. You
I
know?
need to make sure that I was not shooting a blank, and that was a paranormal sperm that went into her,
Yeah.
not a regular one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I need to make sure
Something
that that
about it.
sperm was walking through with tarot cards, you know?
Listen,
Like,
I didn't check. Admittedly, I did not check the timeline because I think she was
Well,
freed. They were freed in March, right?
yeah, and Paige literally says, and that is when you got Luce pregnant.
Yeah, they were on the train together going back to France, and she got pregnant on the train with him.
I don't know. There's something about it. There's something about it that does
I
not
think it's
feel
part
right
of the
to
mission
me.
that he has to sow discourse
Yeah.
between.
I mean, he's just the words. Ambiguous. Ambiguous
Because
sucks.
you're gonna tell me the woman who looked at Paige Mahoney in the eye and was like, "I'm so glad my children will grow up in a world without you."
She knows that
slept
Paige is a
with
dreamwalker.
voyant?
Luce probably doesn't know that he's a dreamwalker. She probably believes that he's just some little oracle.
She knows now.
I think that people do stupid things for sex a lot. And I think that maybe the horniness got her, the stress got her, and she gave in to Cade.
Maybe your husband hasn't been able to sleep with her because he's busy working all the time.
I think that Cade has some knowledge that we don't have.
Yeah, in the bedroom, specifically.
In the bedroom. And I think that she really is attracted to him. Because like the way he reached for her when he thought that Paige was loose,
and
like
something was wrong.
They do this a lot. I think that she's got a thing for him.
But also, like, he knew it was Paige.
Well, he suspected, that's true.
So, like, that's why I don't really take any of that
if that's
seriously.
His sister.
Yeah. That's the other thing, too. Like,
no.
They are related. In some capacity, they are related. I don't know whether it's with her father or her mother or both of them. But they are half siblings, and I will die on that hill.
Steph, what do you want from the dark mirror?
I want to know where Julian is.
Okay.
I want him to be on the side of good.
I think he is.
I'm a little tired of people creeping in and being double crossers. There's been a lot of double crossing happening.
Triple crossing.
I would love for him to be some sort of trump card somehow.
I think that, okay, here's the thing. I think that if I'm right and he's working with Jackson and whoever Jackson's working with, Jackson says to Paige, and you never really did. And we have to think about what Paige knows about Jackson. She knows that he is a liar, he's a cheat, he went behind her back, he betrayed her, he betrayed the syndicate, he worked in Sheol. She knows all this stuff. And yet he goes, "You never really knew me." So
Yeah, because that's my thing. That's the question I have, is if Jackson ends up being, we thought he was on her side, then he says he's not on her side, but he's on her side. What if he is working with a higher thing and is also not, and it's not Nashira?
I think that he is. I think he's working with the good guys and we don't know it yet. And I think that Cordier, who is like, this is all for good, like, F her for doing that.
Yeah,
I don't
Flirty
think
McFlirterton over there.
I don't think she was lying.
No.
I think that she really is, she's like working with whoever maybe Jackson is working with. And she's like, this is for the best. Trust me.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
I also think it was a petty thing of also like, haha, I won Arcturus.
I think that also, and my theory has one gaping hole in it.
That's okay.
And it's that routinely Jackson has tried to sow discourse between Arcturus and Paige.
Mm-hmm.
And to what end if he's on the good side?
Because he can't mold Paige into what he wants her to be.
I was like, because fathers never like the boyfriends. I don't know.
That too.
That's the only way that I can plug up that hole in my theory, is that I think that Jackson doesn't like Paige being beholden to anyone but him.
Yes.
And so it's not a part of his mission to make her and Paige split up.
But it's also, the more that Arcturus exists, the more likely that Paige is going to keep walking towards this revolution, which probably puts a wrench in whatever Jackson's boss wants.
Well, yeah, because, Nashira technically Nashira is the one who's like, Jackson, like, she probably tasked him with splitting the two of them up. So I don't think it's entirely him. And notice, I don't believe when they're in the office with him, does he try to plant the seed again that Arcturus is pulling her strings? Does he?
No.
No, he just says, like, both of you are angry at me, but neither one of you will do something about it.
Nobody's there to watch him this time. So he doesn't say that thing. So I think that Jackson might actually be with the right people. And
yeah, he just has a really crummy way of showing it.
He knew how to use a dissimilator. How did he know how to use that? Paige didn't even know how to use it.
Yeah.
Oh. Something I noted that you reminded me of is Situla hesitated. Had the kill shot on, or the kill swing, so to speak, on Paige, and hesitated. Her face drawn, eyebrows knitted tight, knuckles straining against her glove, and she did not do it. Why?
I don't remember who that is.
Situla Misarthan is a Rephaim, not a Ranthan.
Mm-hmm.
So she's supposed to be a bad guy.
Cousin. Yes.
Cousin, yeah. She's a bad guy, maybe.
But I wrote a note. Something about, like, did she hesitate because of Jackson?
Yeah.
I don't know. All I'm learning is that Izzy needs to start reading.
Girl, I really do. I need February to come fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But unless there's anything else,
Samantha Shannon wants to do us a solid.
Yeah.
Send us an arc.
Well,
we can...
See, that's crazy. You immediately went to asking for an arc. I was going to extend, once again, a warm invitation.
You can't whole time saying that you're mad at her and then extend a warm invitation. You gotta, like...
She wrote this book. She knows people are going to be mad at her.
Yeah, Kayla,
I'm not mad.
Extend the invitation.
I'm not mad. We can sit have a nice cup of tea about it.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't mean you can't be mad at someone. The ambiguity is really... Okay.
I'm driving Steph nuts, y'all. I love it.
Yeah, the moment this call is over, I'm leaving her.
Real quick. now that you guys have finished all the books that are out,
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear your official ranking of them, unless you need more time to sit with it.
I already thought about it.
Okay.
Mime Order,
Yep.
Mask Falling, Song Rising, The Bone Season.
Okay. Steph?
Can't tell if she's giving me a dirty look or if she's trying to calculate in her head. Or if it's both.
Steph, that's my order exactly, by the way. I was like, I completely agree, Kayla.
I don't know. I think the Mask Falling goes higher for me than Mime Order.
Wow. I did not see that coming from you.
She's a masochist. That makes sense.
You literally were the one that said you wanted this book to hurt you.
Yeah.
You're throwing jabs when they're not landing. I don't know what to tell you.
I got a reaction out of you.
I knew that this episode was going to be tense.
It's just like Kayla does this thing where she wants to instigate and like poke fingers, right? And then she'll be like, "Oh, but you reacted." Yeah, if you poke someone enough, they're gonna react.
So wait, it's above.
So it's Mask Falling.
Oh, wow!
It's on the top?
Yeah,
Okay.
Wow.
Mask Falling, Mime Order,
Uh-huh.
Song Rising,
Yeah.
and then The Bone Season.
That
The
used to be
only
my
reason
order.
Mask Falling won out against Mime Order, because it's probably a really good tie between them, is I like the intricacy of the overarching plot. Because with the Mime Order, we got a lot of like, this is how the syndicate needs to survive, and this is what like we see the development of Paige as, you know, becoming
The Black
all
Moth.
of this and stuff, and like loved that, right? But with this one, the stakes feel higher. Everything about it just feels a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And it's also like you got a lot more, I think, intrigue with this one. Because it gave a lot of answers.
Too.
It gave a lot of answers, but it still left you with plenty of answers. Whereas with the Mime Order, everything's kind of unsteady.
Yeah.
And so you don't have a lot to like go on
The
with
Mime
that
Order,
last one.
the Mime Order and the Mask Falling are really closely tied for me. And the only reason I like the Mime Order better than the Mask Falling is because I am such like a Victorian London like obsessive person. So the atmosphere for me of the Mime Order hits harder.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that the Mask Falling from like a mystery standpoint is so satisfying.
Yeah. So I think that would be the ranking. But as I was saying before, the Leo had to gear the attention again. Is Samantha Shannon, if you are listening, you are more than welcome and heavily wanted to be in the next episode where we go over the Dark Mirror. So let us know.
And thank you for boosting my read along and getting so many people to do it.
Yeah, I think more authors need to be like Samantha Shannon in not only welcoming content creators and reviewers and stuff like that into the space, but also creating that space for them and realizing that
amplifying it.
Yeah, realizing that like the popularity of your books and everything, not in any way, shape, or form is because of the content creators, because they're masterpieces on their own right. But always ensuring that they continue meeting new audiences is incredibly important. And I think a lot of traditionally published authors are slower to addressing the need for a like outreach program towards content creators and people that make videos and stuff like that.
I think she has really good boundaries with her fans that allow her to do that. And I never make this sort of thing with the intent that I'm going to get an author to leverage it in any way. I know that they would probably be wise to, but if they don't do it, I'm like, whatever. They get inundated all the time. It's felt like every time I've seen her repost a fan art or repost a post or anything, I am very appreciative that she just recognizes that she keeps saying, I'm so lucky to have fans like this.
Yeah,
and
she recognizes
is so beautiful, and I appreciate it so much.
And also, not to get sappy on Maine, but we wouldn't have started any of this if it wasn't for
because we
Priory of the
started
Orange
with
Tree.
Priory of the Orange Tree.
Our first
That's
episode
what
was
started
about
Margin Mavens.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. Like,
and we're nearing when we're recording this. I've got no issues being sappy because I'm multifaceted. When we started this, it was really on a whim of like, we're reading a lot of the same books. Like, we should have a way to talk about this that is kind of separate from, our own streams and our own Twitches and stuff like that. And so we started this in March. And now when we're recording it, we're in November. And we have been given very great opportunities that even for such a small account by means of, numbers and everything, the fact that we are able, from this point, we've had genuine conversations with authors that we've admired. We've met people that we admire. It's nice because every week we're able to meet and have a reprieve from whatever we've got going on, because for a few hours on a Sunday, right, we're able to just focus on like, hey, we're going to read, or we're going to talk about our reading, and we're going to focus on all these things. And so that's been really cool. And a lot of it really is just from Samantha Shannon of being like, oh, this behemoth of a book, Priory of the Orange Tree.
It's gay. We have to read it.
Takes more time than just a couple minutes in a stream being like, what did you think of it?
Yeah.
And it turned into like an actual brand and like a business. And that's like crazy to me. So I can be mad at her and still, adore the ground she walks on.
I started posting about books because I read the Bone season, and I started talking to bookish people because I was so hungry for more Bone season. And one of them told me in 2021 when I finished The Mass Falling, she was like, the only way you're getting that next book early is if you get an arc because you're like some sort of influencer. So this whole thing feels very full circle.
Yeah, spoke it into existence.
Yeah, but most of all, like, I just appreciate the thought that goes into the representation, and then the discussion using autocracy as a plot point and not in a glanced over, isn't this scary way, in a way that examines how insidious it is, and how one line that I have found myself repeating in the weeks that have passed is from Samantha Shannon, which is, the only way to survive is to believe you always will. There are so many lines from this series that I have taken heart in over the past few weeks. And yeah, and I won't lie, like, and if we have to edit this out, that's totally fine.
No.
Books are political.
Books are political.
Okay, the day after everything went down, and the election results came in, I just said to myself, I was like, I can't exist right now, but you know who could do this is Paige Mahoney. And I picked up my book and I started reading, and I'll forever be grateful for a character like Paige Mahoney, who, when things get hard, I can pick up this series and
we can lean on her,
And I can lean on her and I can be Paige for a few hours.
Which, granted, woo-wee is so.
That's
say, oh how lucky it is to be me.
To be able to be like, cool, I'll be Paige for a couple hours and now I'm done.
Yeah.
It's like, you're so lucky, and she goes, oh yes, how lucky it is to be me. Something I say often.
Always uncomfortable, like same Page. Same.
Her and Michael Rinn, the worst luck in all of Scion.
Truly.
Like, Paige has bad luck, Michael Rinn has worse luck.
Yeah. We don't know what's going on with him. He did it on purpose,
Where's Michael?
Hashtag where is Michael?
Yeah.
We should make that trend, so maybe we could get some answers.
By the way, thank you guys so much for having me and letting me do this with you
Bro,
guys. It's been so fun.
Don't even start. Don't even start. Okay.
listen. We are an incredibly thankful duo. You've met us on a spicier day because of the mask falling and everything like that.
It's great.
But-
Nails trembling.
We are incredibly lucky, not just to you, but to every person that has taken a chance. Because ultimately that is what it is when you're willing to have a conversation with somebody else that's going to be on the internet for the foreseeable future, are these people going to align with me? Or am I going to get along with these people? And to know that we weren't, to say like aren't nearly as big as we are now is kind of funny to me because we're still growing, but we were very fresh and new. And it was kind of just you going like, oh, it'd be cool to talk to some people about this book and then have it become, for the listeners, by the time you see this, like we have plans with Izzy
In
for like
season 2.
every month. Like,
I was
you
like,
know?
no, we're not giving up Izzy. Like, what are we doing after the mask falling? Because in the Dark Mirror, because I can't not. I need my monthly dose of Izzy.
Yeah.
Oh, I was telling Dylan, I was like, I'm gonna be so sad when it's all over, and like,
Yeah.
and then you guys sent me a message being like, we should do more. I was like, yes, please.
And it's something that we're incredibly, thankful for because like from the objective standpoint and not just a sappy standpoint, like you having the platform that you have and still giving us a voice is something that a lot of people with bigger platforms don't do. Because there's this whole mentality of like, these
Numbers
are
are
my
more
followers and
important.
these are my
Yeah.
numbers or whatever. And the fact that you were willing to do that from the jump without knowing us, like you walked into that first episode being, I have no idea if I'm gonna get along with these people.
I
You know?
did my research. I watched. Could only watch one of your things without spoiling myself, and I was like, okay. I wonder
Yeah.
if my biggest worry, because you guys sounded like people I could talk to for a long time, but I was like, will I see their faces? How am I going to sit there and talk to two cartoons? And I didn't know that I would be able to see you guys. As soon as I was able to see you guys, I was like, okay, this is going to be easy. But for anybody who's considering coming on Margin Mavens, you do get to see them. It's not two cartoons for the whole time.
Yeah, because it's obviously been a conversation a lot behind the scenes between Kayla and I. Kayla has no real issues being on camera because she does her Twitch stuff on cam and stuff like that. I live in a dystopian state.
Truly.
And
gotta get you out.
Yeah.
Come to Cali.
Over my dead body. Absolutely not.
Kayla likes me in the same time zone.
At the very least, in the same time
Kayla,
zone.
where are you?
I'm in Massachusetts.
Oh, Massachusetts. Oh, okay. That's a good choice too. Yeah.
Well, by this point, I got accepted into a grad school for marketing.
Oh,
and so I'm at least here until I get that done because it's cheaper. If I stay here.
Hashtag sobbing.
You know where marketing is booming?
Yeah.
California.
You know what else is booming? Gas prices.
Housing prices.
Hey now. Did I spend $40 on half a tank of gas yesterday? Yes.
Yeah.
Into this sentence, I don't have anything to defend it. That's the
but all machineness aside, we are incredibly thankful for you.
Yes.
Oh, thank you guys, and thank you for having me.
Because we went into it pretty blind on our end. Like at least me, I was like, she seems cool.
I don't do well with new people. I get so anxious.
I was like,
I get so quiet.
I should look into our guests a little more thoroughly, and we will for season 2 and everything. But I was like, yeah, I mean, she likes Samantha Shannon. She can't be terrible.
Exactly.
And that's literally the only thing we walked into it with. And then
that's all we needed.
We remember getting off of the first episode and being like, oh, like she was really cool. And then that was what that's what solidified it, because it's terrifying out there trying to meet new people on social media, right? Because there's so much oh, how much of this is are they going to actually be friendly? Are they going to actually care about diversity and
are we going to possibly put a target on our backs? Because some of
Yeah.
us, or like both of us really, are
Oh,
very
yeah.
loud about how we feel and what we think and our morals and all of that. Like,
Yeah.
I've been around for a while and I've made some mistakes, and it is very scary. And
Mhm.
that's why when you guys asked me to come on, I was like, okay, let me do my research. And I too saw Samantha Shannon, and I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
this will be fun. It's like Samantha Shannon in a weird way is kind of a litmus test.
yes.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
you know that if she catches you doing anything bad in the fandom, she's calling you out for it. Like,
Right.
Will never ever forget her standing up for my starter kit when I defined Arcturus as pansexual, and somebody was like, actually, you wouldn't even have that term.
yeah. And you were like, all right, guys.
Clearly not in good faith. And
Canon. But it's canon.
but it's canon.
But
And
it's canon.
she also just approached it very Britishly, very stiff upper lip. She was like, I would not have had this term. That's correct. And I don't use it in the book, but I'm going to describe it that way outwardly because that's the truth. And
Yeah.
also, I did an impression of her once on my TikTok, and I didn't know she'd ever see it. And one of the first comments I got was, I love the impression. I was like,
Oh no. It's not how you want to be perceived.
I tagged Bloomsbury. I didn't tag you, Shannon.
It all ends up in Shannon's world
Yeah.
somehow.
I think she does watch stuff, but yeah. Thank you guys again. I'm so glad you guys liked the series. It's like my favorite series. So
Thank
it's always
you.
nice.
Thank you to you. Thank you to the listeners who have been making this possible.
Thank you, Samantha Shannon, for writing all these books
and having the brain that you do.
Yeah.
That brain.
Hashtag in Samantha Shannon we trust.
Amen.
And we will see you in the next video when we're finally talking about the Dark Mirror. Goodbye, everyone.